Notre Dame fans, welcome to another edition, a special edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. My name is Brian Driscoll. I'm the publisher at irishbreakdown.com. That guy right there, that's Vince D'Addario. Vince was at practice today. Today, Notre Dame had their sixth practice of the fall. Still pretty early in camp. Today was only the second full practice they've had. Haven't even really had their first full scrimmage, so we're still early yet. But there's a lot of things we've been able to learn and gather. We're going to first talk about what Vince saw today at practice, and we're going to talk about some of the intel that we've seen or that we've heard from people we've talked to. So, Vince, let's kick things off. First of all, you were at practice today. It was a full padded practice, so we got a chance to see a pretty good amount. Let's start with the offense, and we're going to start with who you thought was just for the whole team was today's alpha, and it's someone that's going to make people in this chat real happy. Kevin Austin.
Oh, and it wasn't close. I mean, it was the Kevin Austin show, in my opinion, today at practice. I mean, he was doing work in one-on-ones. Obviously, he leads his position group and all the drills. And then when they got to team, it was Kevin Austin, a little bit more Kevin Austin, and how about some more Kevin Austin for a first down? Like it was, he's just good, and you can tell. I mean, and to make my case even more specific, he was going up against Cam Hart most of the time, and Cam Hart is doing a great job. Okay, I'm going to be
actually a little bit taller than Kevin, isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit, and it's a great matchup. But Kevin Austin got the best of Cam Hart today. I mean, it was really good coverage.
I want you to explain to people what you mean by that, because when you and I talked about it, what you had said was Cam Hart was a lot of the times in position. He had Kevin Austin covered, but it just didn't matter.
That's exactly right. There was one play in one-on-ones where I can't remember who threw it up. It doesn't really matter. But the ball goes up in the air. Cam Hart is in the hip pocket of Kevin Austin, and Kevin Austin jumps up, puts his hands over the front of the face of Cam Hart and just snatches the ball and then brings it back over for the catch. I mean, it was such an athletic move by Kevin Austin. Again, a shorter Kevin Austin. That everybody in the whole place is like, oh my goodness. Like, I really hope he's healthy the whole year.
And according to your notes that you sent over to me as we put this practice report together, it was Drew Pine that threw the ball.
Okay. Thank you.
But I mean, and that's Vince, that's the stuff we've seen from Kevin Austin in the past, the pre-injury stuff. Now what you're doing is you're getting a chance to see it at a higher volume because he is now the guy.
Right. And to see him jump off of that foot, cut off of that foot. I mean, if I would have told you he's had 2 foot surgeries, you would never have been able to tell. At least watching
injuries. So we're clear. Yeah, injuries. He only had one surgery, right?
You're right.
Just want to make sure that people
injured the foot.
You know how people like to take things from our channel and then run with it to other places.
You're right.
You know how that goes.
2 foot injuries that lost him significant time.
But see, this is important because the thing that you and I have been worried about all summer is what we've said for months is if Kevin Austin is healthy, he'll be really good. But we're not going to kind of spend a lot of time talking about him because he needs to prove that he's healthy.
Sure.
Well, now we're practice 6, and he's showing explosiveness. He's playing high volume. Now I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous about the number of reps that I'm hearing he's taking. But there's been some injuries. There's been some. The receiver position is a little bit slowed up right now. It's just some hammies and some things like that. So they're going to have to kind of look into that a little bit. But Joe Wilkins today, I'm told, was a little bit slowed up by that too. But to see him exploding off of both feet, to see him leaping, to see him, you were talking about how before the show that he was looking sharp with his route cuts, things like that. That's all the stuff we need to see to find out if he's fully 100% recovered, not just healthy, but because there's 100% healthy. Right. And then there's 100% recovered. The 100% recovered is you're back to full speed, you're back to work volume, all that kind of stuff. So that's certainly a very, very good thing to hear about Kevin Austin.
No question. Yeah, he was fun to watch. I mean, it was a get out your popcorn, kind of situation watching him. And if he can remain healthy, and of course that's an if because with the history, but if he can remain healthy, he's going to be something fun to watch all season long.
Now, you said he wasn't the only receiver that made plays today. You said that Braden Lindsey was getting open a lot, especially during team. Wasn't getting the ball thrown to him a lot, but was getting open a lot.
So yeah, let me talk about that real quick. So Drew Pine was running with the ones, right? So the way they were kind of doing things at practice today, the 1s and the 2s were kind of interchangeable today, even though Drew Pine was getting the first reps. But they were rotating in a lot, which is really good to see, especially at the skill positions. And so they were rotating a bunch, but Braden Lenzy was paired up with Drew Pine an awful lot, and Drew Pine wasn't really looking deep. And Braden Lenzy was getting visibly upset about not getting the ball thrown his way. Now, here's the thing. He was open, and his speed was evident when he was getting open on some of those routes, right? And so that was the part that I was mainly paying attention to, whether the Drew Pine throws it to him or not. Maybe they were working on some other things, but Lenzy was frustrated. He's like, man, these guys are slow today. I audibly heard him say that, meaning he's faster than everybody on the field. And it showed because he was running past some dudes today.
Now, you said one of the most impressive individual plays was a play during one-on-ones when Lawrence Keys Jr. Lawrence Keys III just torched Kyle Hamilton.
15 yards.
Talk about that one. And then talk about what he did.
15 yards torched him. And I didn't see the beginning of the play. So I don't know if it was a double move or if it was a slip or what it was, man. But when I looked up, the ball was just leaving the quarterback's hand, and Kyle Hamilton was 10 to 15 yards behind Lawrence Keys. And Lawrence Keys was accelerating beyond, right? It was a great individual play. My guess is it was a double move. And because Lawrence Keys is so good at route running, one stick this way is all you need to get that kind of separation. And especially when you're a safety, because you're coming down or over. So
you're flat-footed, right?
Exactly. And he was 10 or 15 yards beyond him, and it was a perfect throw right into his hands for an easy walk-in touchdown kind of thing. And that was, like I said, that was in one-on-ones. And again, Kyle Hamilton didn't have a great day, but at the same time, he wasn't as involved as he usually is. I should say usually as in last year, not usually as in this year. I think they just have him on a pitch count. I mean, he was in there during.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
he was off a foot injury. He missed the spring.
Exactly.
And you know who he is. You need to figure out what those other guys can do.
Exactly. And so he was in there during the full team scrimmage, and he was in there during one-on-ones, just not a lot of one-on-ones. So his reps were limited. And it showed, it showed a little bit. There was one play where, and I believe it was in the scrimmage. It was either the scrimmage or the 7-on-7. He went to go intercept the ball, and he kind of tried to go over the top of Kevin Austin, and Kevin Austin kind of just snatched it out of the air and then just went small, and Kyle Hamilton basically just went whoop, and there was like nothing there, and then Kevin Austin was able to come up and then start running. So, but he was playing the ball there. He wasn't playing the man, and so that's a technique thing,
and that's a timing thing. I mean, 2 weeks from now, that ball's getting picked.
It is exactly right, and it was a great play by Kevin Austin because he knew that Kyle Hamilton was coming up right behind him. So, I mean, it was a good play by him as well.
We got our first super chat of the day. Martin, thank you very, very, very much for listening to the show and for the super chat.
That's awesome, man.
Appreciate that very, very much. So, Vince, I want to so I got multiple texts and phone calls after practice from other people before you called me to kind of give you your rundown so we could get on the practice report together. And what I was told is the one freshman that really stood out today is Deion Colzie. And I'm told that he sounds a lot like Kevin Austin, that there was one play, I guess, during one-on-ones where he was covered really well, didn't matter. Just was able to go out and maul somebody and make the catch. That's something. So we put out, if you're a subscriber to Irish Breakdown's message board, premium message board, we put out an intel feature last night, and we'll talk about some of that during the show today, but that's something we put out last night was that he still has a lot to learn, Vince, and I know that you saw this. There's a lot Deion still has to learn about route technique and the plays and all that. But when he's just going and playing, he's he might be the most physically impressive kid that they have at receiver when you combine the size with the athleticism. He's clearly their biggest receiver right now. But I heard his ball skills really stood out today.
So there was one play, and it was down the right sideline, and it was pretty good coverage. Let's see, number 18 was
Chance
in coverage.
Tucker.
Chance Tucker, another freshman. And he was in pretty good coverage right in the hip pocket and kind of had Colzie's right arm kind of, checked, right? He just stuck out his left hand in the corner of the end zone, caught it one-handed, and brought it in for a touchdown. Like it was beautiful. Like he just like, whoop. I mean, just one-handed grab. And it was a great throw by Drew Pine, just putting it where the defender couldn't get it and where only his guy could make a play, and his guy made a play. It was impressive.
That's something that I'm seeing a theme of with you, Vince, is when Drew Pine's playing in one-on-ones, he's throwing the ball downfield well.
Yeah.
He's kind of fallen to that Ian Book syndrome of when you get to team, he's not doing it.
Yes.
Well, part of it was, according to you and some other people I've talked to,
hopefully
when
not
they
just
got the team, they didn't have a whole lot of time to throw.
Yeah.
The defensive line is putting it. Is it safe to say it kind of looks like a redo of the spring when it comes to the O-line, D-line? Now, keep in mind, Blake Fisher did not practice today. He is out with a concussion, Brian Kelly said.
Okay.
But we did see Jarrett Patterson back there. We saw Kane Madden getting all the first-team reps at right guard. Yep. Also something that you would have read in the intel piece we put up last night at the message boards. And if you're not part of the message board, you see that thing right down there, boards.irishbreakdown.com. There's also a link to it. You can sign up there. But offensive line still very much a work in progress, sounds like, Vince.
Yeah.
Especially when you got into teams.
Yeah, well, and like I said, especially without your starting left tackle. But yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress because the defensive line and the linebackers, they were living in the backfield when it was ones versus ones. There's no question that you could easily grade the defense as the winner in the trenches. No question about it.
Now, there was one offensive player or offensive lineman that you thought had a pretty good day today. That was right tackle Josh Lugg.
And Josh Lugg, I thought, had a good day. He was going up against Isaiah Foskey most of the time. And I thought he did a good job. Once he got hands on Isaiah Foskey, it was game over. And there was a couple times where he had a real nice drive block against a linebacker. He was getting up into space really well. I was very impressed with Josh Lugg. I thought he had a really good day today. Yeah.
We're not going to do questions until after the show, Vince. We'll get into like we always do.
Of course,
there was one question that I thought was relevant to this current discussion, and that is from Isaiah Dockery. And he wanted to know, was the offensive line catching today when we went to team or firing off the ball? And then follow that up with, you said although the first team offensive line was getting worked, you said that they were getting better movement with the second group, the younger guys.
So I want to – first of all, I want to define kind of what they were doing when they were scrimmaging. It was very much like a scrimmage at the high school level where – you run a play, you get yelled at a lot, then you run a play. It wasn't like game, speed.
It wasn't a scrimmage. It was a team period.
They called it a scrimmage, but it definitely – and they had referees out there and things like that. But it was definitely –
Which they've had most of fall camp, by the way.
Okay. So it was definitely not a scrimmage. It was 11 on 11, and then they would correct, things like that. So there wasn't like a tempo to it. There was no – so I just wanted to put that out there.
So people understand, Brian Kelly's been bringing in referees a lot for every practice almost, because when they go team, he wants them, even though it's, like you said, it's not a scrimmage where you run the play, you get lined up, you keep going like a scrimmage would be. It's kind of like a team period. You run a rep, come back, you run a rep, or you get coached up, whatever.
Yep.
He still wants the referees around because he wants guys in those team periods not developing bad habits.
And the refs were doing work during one-on-ones too. Right. I mean, they were involved.
That's huge.
In the whole practice.
That's really smart. And you have to pay for that. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So to me, I think that's really smart, because I think what can happen, Vince, is you can develop bad habits during one-on-ones and things when you're not getting things called, that you then go to team peer. So I think it's not going to be something that people are going to talk about much, because it's like, who's going to talk about it? It's like not that sexy. But I wanted to point it out today because as a coach, that is a really smart thing to do.
Right.
To have referees there so you're not getting to those bad habits and periods when you're not getting flagged. And all of a sudden you get out on Saturdays in the fall and you're getting called for penalties for things you weren't getting called for penalties for. I've been told that they're calling like offensive pass interference during one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, you said that there weren't as many of those that should have been called today, but the point is they're there. You have to think about it. They're there.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's important. But go ahead, Vince.
I was gonna say they were Big Ten refs. So I mean, these guys aren't. It's not like they were grabbing a couple high school refs. Nothing wrong with high school refs, but you know what I'm saying. It's like these guys.
It's smart by those refs too. They're getting some work in.
Absolutely, they want to do that kind of stuff.
They're getting paid.
Yeah, man. And they're probably putting them up for a few days.
What am I going to do today? Am I going to go to work at a normal job, or am I going to get paid to go cover Notre Dame's practice?
I know, right? I ask myself that question all the time.
Yeah, I know, right?
And what was my answer?
Today your answer was going to getting paid to go to Notre Dame's practice.
Exactly.
So offensive line wise, obviously a work in progress. But I do want to say sort of we're 6 practices in. Vince, you know how it is. I know how it is in college. We've covered Notre Dame a long time. The defensive line beating the offensive line on day 6 is not overly surprising. It's not something that should be considered a
red flag.
I mean, if we wanted to just like troll Jeff Quinn and just look for any chance to hammer Jeff Quinn, like, oh, see? But look, it's day 6.
Right.
I'm not surprised that the defensive line, which I think is better than the offensive line, is ahead. Normally, defenses are ahead of the offenses at this point in time in fall camp. It's almost every team I've ever been a part of, almost every Notre Dame team we've ever seen. The first scrimmage of the season is usually one that is the defense wins.
Yes,
that's just
absolutely, and
that's just the way that it is.
And I don't think I ever actually answered the question. And I will say that the first team didn't do a whole lot of running, so it was kind of hard to judge with the first team. Once they got kind of the younger guys in there, they were running the ball a lot more, and the offensive line was moving the defensive line. I was actually very impressed with their fire and their get off and things of that nature. And obviously, we'll get to the running backs in a little bit, but they were making some holes for the freshman running backs, which was fun to see. So I would say the early returns are looking good, but at the same time, it's very early. So we'll see what it looks like a week from today when we get our next full practice, because I have a feeling it'll be a little bit more of a lively scrimmage, and you kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like.
Yeah, let's talk about those freshman running backs, Vince, because you were impressed by both of them. I remember one of the things you called me when I didn't even ask you about it. You were like, Logan Diggs and Audric Estime are really good.
Yeah, they are very, very, very good. I see I have written down right here in my notes, 22 and 24 run hard with like capital letters, right? So what they were doing is they kind of started on like the 30 going in, the plus 30, and they were just running the ball. I mean, just running the ball. Tyler Buchner was the quarterback. And Diggs did a nice job of making some people miss in the backfield, making some people miss in the hole. But he wasn't afraid of contact either. He wasn't afraid to lower his shoulder into a linebacker and run him over. And then Audric Estime, first of all, this is the first time that I've kind of really seen him up close. Oh my Lord. Like, this is a big human being.
He's huge.
I mean, his arms are gigantic. His lower body is huge. Like, this man is large. And I use the term man loosely because he's like 18. You know what I mean? Like, he's a kid.
He doesn't look 18.
He doesn't look 18. And when there was one where he kind of bounced one outside and he started to get a little head of steam going down the sideline, and Ramon Henderson went to tackle him. Got him down. But I can tell you right now who the hammer and who the nail were on that one. Audric Estime will be the nail 99 times out of 100. I mean, the hammer, 99 times out of 100, because when he gets that body moving forward, wow. Guys are just ping-ponging off of him, right?
This is another intel piece that was on our thing last night. So again, this is why you need to be part of the boards. We'll still talk about it when we get to the shows, but we put it up as soon as we got it last night. It was somebody I had a source of, don't be surprised if Audric Estime is the short yardage goal line back this year, because you can't stop him for less than 2 yards. I mean, you'd have to literally get him down in the backfield to stop him. I mean, he's just going to move the pile.
They were running the ball super hard. They were ripping off 4, 5, 6 yard carries between the tackles and getting outside. So, I was very impressed with those two, and they got a lot of work today. Like, it was, like I said, there was about 10 snaps, it felt like, for the first team, and the first, which was like 1s and 2s, and then they called the 2s out there, which is really like kind of the 3s and above, and on. So they got a lot of work, those two, and that group got a lot of work. Tyler Buchner got a lot of work, and it showed. Like, they needed the work. I mean, they're young guys; they need that work, and it was great to see. And I'll tell you, I know we're not talking about quarterbacks yet, but Tyler Buchner.
Dude, Vince, you're the one at practice, man. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, man. So let's move right on to quarterbacks.
Well, because
I'm
Tyler
just
Buchner
got eating my Built Bar, drinking my water, just listening to you go, man. So go.
Tyler Buchner got a ton of work today with that group, and he's obviously an athlete. I mean, he's the most electric when he gets out of the pocket. He'll throw like a pump fake to get a guy out of position and then just run the ball. I mean, there was a couple times he made some guys miss running the ball. He's still a little hesitant throwing the ball, but I think he's still kind of drinking through a fire hose as well. He was clearly a number 3 quarterback. So I want to put that out there as well. He's got a ton of talent. When he was throwing the ball, I thought that I was a little surprised at the lack of zip on some of the shorter throws, but the intermediate and deep throws, it was like, okay, this kid can throw the ball. Like it had a little bit more something to it. And it was a little bit more on the line, and it was good. It was good stuff. So it was almost like he was kind of feeling his way through some of the short stuff, like the hitches, the 5-yard outs, things like that. But when you got to the intermediates, the curls, the outs, the ins, the crossers, he was putting a little bit something else on the ball, and so that looked good. But it was kind of like, and I hate to bring this up, but it was kind of like watching a young Phil Dracovic when he would get outside the pocket, just kind of making people miss, and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. As far as RPOs, I didn't see a lot of those in the scrimmage time, and I didn't really see them practice those. But I think that was probably more by design. It appeared to me they were working on a lot of quick game stuff, getting the ball out fast.
But you're not running RPOs with quick game because that's what RPOs are.
That's exactly right. So I think they were working on that that end of the RPO, but they weren't like running the RPOs within the scrimmage.
Right. Which you said during with the 1s and 2s when they would have ran a lot of those, you said they were basically passing anyway.
Yes, that's what it felt like.
So obviously you're not going to see a lot of that.
And frankly, again, talking about quarterbacks, I thought Jack Cohn got the ball out fast. Like from the time that the ball hit his hands to it getting out was quick. Like he would make his decision and the ball was gone. Which is so important when you're running these screens and you're in these quick games, the stuff on the outside. You want to get the ball out of your hands, get it into the hands of the playmakers. I thought he was making some very quick decisions, and just the physicality of getting the ball out of his hands was very, very good, I thought.
Can I ask a question on that, Vince?
Yeah.
Was it actually like processing reads and quickly getting it out, or was it like captain check down?
It wasn't captain check down. Like, yeah, okay. It wasn't processing reads and then checking down. There were a couple times during like 7-on-7, where it was really good coverage.
Right, which you're going to have to check. You know what I'm talking about. We've been at practices before where past quarterbacks would literally just throw the check down every freaking play.
And it wasn't when they were throwing the short stuff. It wasn't check downs. It was screens. It was quick game stuff. It wasn't check downs. So yeah, just to clarify.
Okay.
Yep.
And you said Jack Cohn overall. How'd you? I mean, again, we didn't see a ton of him today.
Yeah, we really didn't. So Drew Pine was running with the 1s, the quote unquote 1s. So in other words, he was the first guy out. Okay, I'll put it that way. So when they were doing team takeoff on air, he was with the 1s, and then Jack Cohn was with the 2s. I thought that in 1-on-1s, I thought that Drew Pine probably did the best overall. I thought, there were some flashes of Jack Cohn looking pretty good in the 1-on-1s, but there were a couple of balls that were underthrown. There was a couple of balls that were overthrown. So overall, I think Pine did the best. And I think, Buckner was a little inconsistent, but I will say all 3 of their balls are pretty. I mean, it's not a situation where you're like, wow, I can't believe that kid's a quarterback. Like, wobbly balls. I mean, because we've seen that at Notre Dame practices. We've seen ducks. We've seen, things. I thought the ball came out of all 3 of their hands very, very well. It was smooth, things of that nature. When we got to team, it was clear who the starter should be. Mm-hmm. I thought Jack Cohn looked the smoothest. I thought he looked the most in control. I thought his balls were more on the money. There was one time, I want to say it was Cohn that was at quarterback, and it looked like he completely missed the receiver. But then I hear the coaches yelling, "Come on, George!" So it was George Takis that didn't run the right route. Okay. And so that kind of, okay, all right, that makes sense. So it was that kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, once we got to team, it was the Jack Cohn show. I thought he looked really, really good when he got his opportunity. I thought Pine looked a little bit deer in the headlights when we went to team stuff, scrimmage 11-on-11 type stuff. Not that he would be bad or not that he did a bad job. It's just, I thought that Cohn looked better. I mean, bottom line, right? He looked like the kid
which shouldn't be a surprise.
Right. He looked like the guy who has, double-digit wins under his belt in the Rose Bowl. Like, he looked more in control. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Now, off the field, right? When they're switching between drills and they're, bringing guys together and everything. Drew Pine's the first guy up front, slapping everybody five and getting everybody up. So, I mean, he's got a great demeanor. I thought that was really, really good. And not to say Jack Cohn wasn't doing it, but Pine was out in front.
That's who Drew is. And that's going to be important too, Vince, because he is going to be the backup quarterback.
Sure.
And Jack Cohn is going to be the starting quarterback. If you haven't heard anything Brian Kelly said this spring or in this fall camp, then if you have heard anything Brian Kelly said this spring or fall, it should be obvious that that's who the starting quarterback is going to be.
Right.
We talked about this last night in our intel feature at Irish Breakdown on the message boards that Jack Cohn's off to a great start so far. Drew Pine's going to be the backup quarterback, but it's important that Drew still keeps that type of mentality.
Absolutely.
Because if his number's called, then a guy like Drew with that kind of mentality is going to immediately have the respect of his teammates. There's going to be a trust. Hey, we're going to be okay because Drew's taking over.
Right.
He just needs that experience. So it is good to have a backup quarterback that's kind of got that, sort of has that outgoing personality. So that way, if for whatever reason his number's called, he's gonna have that. So that's an important piece too. Vince, anything else that you any other observations from the Notre Dame offense you want to discuss before we move on to the defense?
I was very happy with the rotation at wide receiver. They went about 5-6 deep with the quote unquote ones, right? So I like that. That gives me good feelings about things moving forward and kind of what the depth chart's going to look like, right? So that was a good thing. Other than that, no, I think that was pretty much the offense. They're coming along slowly. They're coming along. I will say this from an observational standpoint, Tommy Rees is very much in control of the offense. Just in the way that he's kind of running things and, going more so than we've seen in the past. Now, we didn't see a bunch of practice last year, obviously.
Well, we don't know what an offense with Tommy Rees is going to be run like.
But he was very much in control of the offense. I barely heard Brian Kelly at all. He would jump in every now and again, talking about when they went to a bunch formation, kind of what they're trying to do out of it. He was talking to the receivers. He got on his coaches a little bit here and there. But it was Tommy Rees' offense. No question about it. So I wanted to put that out there too.
That's important. That's an important observation.
Yeah.
I think that's important to know because that's a question a lot of people have.
Yeah. Right. Is it Brian Kelly's offense?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now let's hope that we can hear the same report when we get to the last practice.
Right. Absolutely.
So we'll hear the same thing. So offensively, you talked about the alpha was Kevin Austin. Let's talk a little bit about the defense, Vince. So you said there were really two alphas today, one on the front and then one at linebacker. Let's start up front. A familiar name for anyone that watches this channel. Sounds like Jason Adamiola is doing now in the fall what he did all spring, which was, well, let's say the offensive line is not doing to him what they didn't do in the fall, or in the spring, which is block him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was explosive. I mean, he was borderline unblockable, in the amount of time that he was in there. It was impressive what he was able to do. It just seemed like 57 was making plays and then kind of doing the big man like stomp, afterwards. I mean, he was feeling it. The guys were feeling him. It was fun to watch. Frankly, this defense as a whole is going to be fun to watch, right? When they make plays, they get excited. They're all about it. The sideline erupts. I mean, it's good stuff. And Jason Adamiola was the leader of that from the front. He made a bunch of plays in the run game. He was making quarterbacks think twice about what they wanted to do and how long they wanted to stay in the pocket, things of that nature. I was just very impressed with Jason Adamiola and not a surprise impressed, but it was more like an impressed that, yep, there's Jason. He's doing exactly
well.
What
we
Brian
wanted to see what he was going to do in the fall, what he did in the spring, and what we've always thought he could do, which is it's fine to, in theory, say, hey, this guy's talented and all that, but we need to see him do it.
Yep.
And now he's doing it on a consistent basis, and that's the important thing.
Yep, so no question.
Let's stick with the defensive line. We saw Riley Mills playing some 3 technique. And again, this is a note we had on the message board last night. We also saw him playing some big end because did we talk about Myron Tungvaloa's father? So
we
Myron
didn't talk about it.
Was not at practice today. He has not been at the last couple practices because his father passed away suddenly and tragically. And of course, Myron has to be home with his family. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And so obviously our prayers are with him and his family. I'm 43. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose my father now. And I don't want to have to think about it. I couldn't imagine being a senior in college, going into the biggest year of your life and losing your dad, who he was very close with. So he was not at practice. I don't think we'll see him for several more days, most likely. And then also Justin Adamiola injured his hamstring a couple days ago, so he's been out. So we saw a lot of the young ends, but we also saw some Riley Mills playing big end.
Yeah, he was moving around. He played some inside, he played some outside, and he was, I've got written down here in my notes, 99 doing work in the run game. Like, and he was doing work. I mean, there's no question. Having him on the inside, his speed on the inside is something that I'm intrigued to see if they go to during games, right? Because he's got such a quick motor off the ball, and he's so long. Like, I mean, he's long, he's athletic. I thought that he did a really good job with the opportunity that he was given today.
He said another guy that when we talked before the show, another guy that's long and athletic that stood out to you is Alexander Ahrensberger.
Yeah. When they were doing FSA, which is their dynamic stretching, but when the game, before practice starts and they, do different drills, going up and down the line, right? I was like, who's 90 again? I had to look at my roster. I was like, oh man, that's Ahrensberger. Okay. I mean, he's so tall. His arms are so long. I mean, it would be impossible to get by him. You know what I mean? He just sticks out that big old wing, and he's going to be clotheslining guys with that.
And you sent me some clips from practice too, and he looked really quick off the ball. Like he's still got, you can tell there's still some technical things. There's still some timing things that a guy that just hasn't played football for very long,
he can get bigger
in America,
like this way.
He's real. His quickness for that size is impressive. Now, I'm curious to see, does the light go on for him at any point in time this year? Because he's going to get some reps these next few days. He's going to get some opportunities these next few days. And he's a guy that we've heard in the past, like the staff has high hopes for him. It's just they think he's probably still another year away. Well, does that light go on a little bit sooner than normal? That's going to be an interesting part of what we see. Linebacker-wise, there's some interesting things. So I got word yesterday, Vince, that Shane Simon's actually been working a lot with the third group at will linebacker,
which is like the freshmen and some of the
just today. Group. Today it was.
But
in the past, I'm talking about in previous practices, that Maris Luafau is right now dominating the 1 reps, and that the number 2 guy is JD Bertrand. I've heard that from sources last night. I didn't want to report on it because I was like, that may not be. Let's see if that's. And then you came out today, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw Maris Luafau, and he was your number 2 alpha on defense, correct?
Oh,
that's the guy that you thought had a really, really good day.
Yeah, he was playing kind of like a man possessed. There was one play where Drew Pine dropped back to throw the ball, and it was supposed to be a quick play. Like, it was supposed to be him getting the ball out pretty quickly, but Maris came off the edge, rushing the quarterback, put both of his mitts up in the air, knocked the ball down. Like, it was one of those pop, like really quick, like out of the hand of Pine into the hands of Marist, and it bounced in such a way after it went off like his forearms, it landed right in his lap, and he ended up taking it back for a touchdown. I mean, heck of an athletic play, heck of a, you've got to be good with the ball in order to block it and then catch it as well. I mean, it was a heck of a move, but he was just all over the football today, just flying around. It was organized chaos. I mean, he did exactly what he was supposed to be doing, but he was doing it 100 miles an hour.
That's the difference, Vince, between him this year and last year.
And he looked good.
What you told me is it's fine to be fast,
right?
But if you're fast hitting the wrong gap, or if you're fast going the wrong direction, it's you're going to get beat.
Right.
What you're saying today is he was assignment correct and playing fast.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, he was assignment correct because, he wasn't getting yelled at by any coaches, and he was in the backfield and he was making plays and he was just flying to the football. So I thought he played exceptionally well today. And if this is how these 3 guys have been playing for the past week, then I'm not surprised he's at the top of the depth chart.
Well, and we had a little nugget on our insider nugget, which again got kind of overlooked because of what wasn't in the intel pieces before practice started that people ran with. But one of the things that was in there was that don't be surprised if Maris Luafau beats out Shane Simon. That's something we were told before fall camp started, and it sounds like so far, Maris is putting a lockdown. JD Bertrand was a guy that had a really sneaky good spring.
Right.
And every time we were seeing practice video, we saw him in the blue gold game. He was just around the ball all the time, Vince. And what you said today was That was the same thing that we saw from practice today. From what
so he kind of reminded me a little bit of Jack Kaiser when he got a chance to play the Will last season.
Against South Florida.
Yeah, against South Florida. He was just around the football and he was making plays. And the sideline loves them some JD Bertrand. Like they were loving JD every time he would make a play. Oh, JD. Like they were loving him some JD. So it's clear that he's ascending. There's no question about that. There was one point, we talked about this a little bit, Brian, you and I. There was one point in the scrimmage where they had JD Bertrand. They had Drew White, excuse me. They had Drew White and they had Maris Luafau. Those were the three linebackers. So there was no rover on the field. It was just those three guys. That's some athleticism at linebacker, right? I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from Jack Kaiser, but I felt like that was probably maybe that's going to be a Stanford look. Maybe that's a third and short look. I don't know, but it was intriguing to see those three kind of out playing together. And Maris Luafau was kind of playing that roverish position. He was kind of, the detached linebacker of that threesome. So you're muted, Brian. You're still there. You go.
I wanted to just kind of distract you. I didn't have anything important to say. I just say Brian Kelly talked about that after practice too. He mentioned in the press conference that they had Maris playing some rover. So technically he was the rover on that play, but it wasn't a traditional rover thing from what you're describing. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. And you said that was during sort of a nickel type of situation.
Yep. And they were going up against the offense, but it wasn't like a full scrimmage period. And I noticed it because the defense was waiting for the offense to get there. And they were kind of standing, in their spots, ready to go. So it gave me a chance to kind of pay attention to how they were lined up.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk more. You said Drew White and Bo Bauer both good today. You just said the difference. Both productive. Both are going to play.
Yep.
You said Drew was just a little bit more consistent, right? Just kind of steady, which is good because that was one of the things that we were concerned about with Drew from last year was he just seemed like he was trying to do too much instead of just do your job. Don't worry about the buck. Do your job. Sounds like he was doing just that during practice today.
Yeah, and Bo Bauer was rotating in with the ones, and he was in there with the nickel package as well. So Bo Bauer is going to play, and he was also one of the clear leaders when they went to special teams as well. So you're still going to see 52 on special teams, which frankly I'm excited about because I thought he brought just kind of a fire to the special teams last few years for that matter. So he's still going to play special teams, but he was getting minutes with the ones with that kind of that first rotation, which was good. So I think you're going to see a lot of Bo Bauer. You're going to see a lot of Drew White. I mean, you're going to see a rotation there.
And Marcus Freeman has not hid that fact. He has not been shy about that. He said we're going to play a lot of linebackers.
Yeah.
So if you're a 2, you're going to play a lot more than 2s would have 3, 4, 5 years ago. No question about it.
Well, and it's interesting that Maris was playing a little bit of rover. I'm wondering what that means for Pryor and Moala and things like that. And they both played today. They both rotated in at times as well. Moala was kind of with that third group most of the time. And I think he's just kind of getting back too. There was definitely some coaching going on for Paul. And so I'm interested to see how those guys kind of shake out at the rover position too.
Yeah. John Kleinmeck with a super chat. John, thank you so much, buddy. Just a couple quick questions here from him, Vince, and then we'll use that third part of his question to kind of transition into another guy that you thought was a standout today. So first, Vince, just overall, one of the things we reported in our Intel feature last night is something So I talked to different sources, and I try to get sources close to the program and maybe some who aren't around the program as much. And I talked to a source last night who has been around the team, but isn't someone that works for Notre Dame. But he's been around the team, and he's been around the team a lot over the last decade in different things. And this is someone that really knows football. And the comment that he made was, this is the fastest Notre Dame team I've seen under Brian Kelly. And it seemed like the way it was said to me was it's not close. And that's both sides of the ball. But we talked a lot about the offense. But this part to me is something I was curious about, Vince, too, is how does it look on defense?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's right. I mean, whoever your source is, he's right, because this team is fast. And whenever there is even, let's say there's a hole for the running back, right? It closes very, very fast because the defense just flies to the football. They rally to the football. And there was a couple times where I thought there was some room on the outside for these running backs, and the defense closes so fast that it turned into like a 2-yard gain. And it's impressive. So not only are they fast, but this defense isn't afraid to lay the wood either. I mean, there were some pops. There were some hits when they were going full go today as well. So this defense isn't afraid to hit. It doesn't matter if they got the same color helmet on as the offense. They're not afraid to take it to them. And I like that. You know, there was some definite competition going on there, and it was good. And they were fast, man. They fly to the football. And it's fun to watch.
And obviously, we've talked about the speed at receiver and running back. Obviously, we know about, so that's a good sign.
The excuse of not having playmakers, that doesn't exist anymore.
Speed won't be a problem.
That's all I'm saying. Like the national people, they're a couple of speedy guys away. No, they're not. They're on the team. There's no question.
How do the DNs look the part? Now, obviously, consider two of the top DNs in the rotate. Two of the top 3 DNs in the rotation weren't there today,
and I think that's important to understand.
weren't practicing today. Justin Ademilola was there, but he wasn't practicing. Myron wasn't there, and that's
right.
Those are 2 of your better players. And I heard a source that I talked to said that for the first 3, I think Justin played like 3 days, maybe 4 before he got hurt. He was dominating, from what I was told. So, yeah. That's a good sign. But 2 of those guys weren't there, so it's kind of hard to really dive too much. I mean, you said at one point in time they had Khan Okia playing a little bit. Osita Ekwonu's also hurt, so there are the end position's a little thin right now.
Sure.
So I don't know how much we can really gather from that today.
Yeah,
especially in early practice.
You know, I thought Nana and I thought Isaiah Foskey. I thought they played solid. They played solid. They didn't get a huge amount of opportunity, because the ones just didn't play a ton in the scrimmage. I think that was more geared towards the younger guys. So I thought they were solid. You know, they looked like good rotational pieces. I think Isaiah Foskey is going to have his opportunity to shine. I just don't know that it was today. You know what I mean? Which just with the structure of the way things were going, and the way they kind of set it up, I don't know that it was in a manner to make the ends shine and look their part. They look solid, and I think that's a compliment. It really is.
Last part, and this will transition into another guy that you thought was a standout for today's practice, and that was Houston Griffith. And a standout not from the standpoint of that he made a ton of plays, but just talk about you want a safety, it's always around the ball. And from what you told me, that was what Houston's day was like.
And look, and again, this is not taking anything away from Kyle Hamilton, because Kyle Hamilton was limited in what they were allowing him to do. I thought Houston Griffith.
And also, I don't care one bit what Kyle Hamilton does or doesn't do in practice.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Right?
That's why
if Kyle Hamilton would have had the worst practice ever and got beat on every single play, I'd say, so?
Okay. Right. And that's my point. You nailed it. Yeah. That's my point. I don't want people to freak out when I say this, but Houston Griffith was the best safety on the field today.
Today.
Right. You know what I mean? I thought he did a tremendous job. I thought he was coming downhill very quickly. I thought he did a great job in coverage. I thought he did a really, really good job today. And again, there was a lot of rotation at the safety position. Let's see here. DJ Brown got a lot of time, and he looked solid. But I thought Houston Griffith.
He's always going to be that, Vince. He's always going to be at the right. It's just athletically, he just doesn't have what you need. But he's always going to be in good position. He's always going to be where he needs to be.
And I thought Justin Walters, the freshman safety, I thought he made some plays today. He basically using his athleticism to his advantage. He's still kind of feeling it out. I mean, he's a freshman. I mean, I'm not surprised about that, but I thought he made some plays today as well. But Houston Griffith, I thought was tremendous today.
You had said there was also some times we saw a little bit of KJ Wallace in the nickel today too. Yes. So we saw Tariq Bracy as the starting nickel, but you said that you also saw some of KJ Wallace, which again, remember, KJ was recruited to play corner at Notre Dame. He moved to safety out of necessity from a need standpoint. So it's good to hear them moving him around, because that tells me that they're just trying to find a place to get him on the field.
We did have a super chat, Brian. I don't know if you want to grab it. It disappeared.
Just wanted to finish with with the safeties part from Johns, and then we'll bring up David's super chat.
Yep, absolutely. So I thought the safeties look good.
Okay, good. So solid day from the safety positions. Yeah. You said the only guy that you remember getting burnt was Kyle Hamilton. So if the only guy that got beat was Kyle Hamilton, your safeties had a pretty good day. There's no question about it, because that's not going to be happening on Saturday.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
David Carpenter with super chat. David, thank you again so much, and I love the plug here. I'm getting excited for the start of the season as I sit here, eat my cookies and cream Built Bar, and watch.
Well
Go
done.
Irish.
Well done.
Obviously, David got his Built Bar through the Irish Breakdown discount. So he got 10% off when he bought his cookies and cream Built Bar, which there's a link below in the description bar. You can get that. So if you click on that link and you make sure that the promo code Irish Breakdown, all caps, one word, is entered in, you will get 10% off your entire purchase. We have like 20 people take advantage of that so far, Vince, which has been pretty cool. Of course, my mom is one of those. She's already made 2 purchases. She loves Built Bars. She went a month without buying them because she knew that I was working on trying to get a deal set up with them. So she like deprived herself for like a month because she wanted to get that deal. But yeah, check those out. So David, thank you very much for that. Hope you're enjoying it. You all saw I was punishing a Cherry Barcia one before we get started. I haven't had a really chance to eat much today because we've just had so much going on. Right. And I was like, I gotta get some on my stomach or I'm gonna be like growling the whole show. So and I didn't want to get like hangry during the show either. I didn't want that to happen either. So
I don't want that.
But we're good to go. But thank you for the super chat, David, very, very much. And appreciate you listening and watching. We're gonna wrap things up, Vince, with the cornerbacks.
Yes.
We talked about Cam Hart already. Clarence Lewis, Tariq Bracy, you had said had really solid days. I want to talk a little about some of the younger guys that you had a chance to see today. So let's start with Philip Riley, who you said was getting some legitimate like number two team work today at cornerback. So what'd you see from Philip today?
Yeah, again, he looks like a freshman, but at the same time, he's athletic as all get out. And there were a couple of maybe some coverage bust kind of things, but at the same time, there were times when his athleticism would just make up for it. And I thought that's probably why he's running with the 2s, right? I mean, that he has inserted himself kind of as that number 2 guy. And you can tell that you can see the talent and you can see what the coaches see in him. He just needs a little bit more time. You know what I mean? But I was very impressed with Philip Riley. There's no question about it. I thought he looked very, very good. I thought Ramon Henderson, on the other side with the 2s, I thought he looked really good. Not afraid to get in there and mix it up. Like I said, he may have been the nail with Audric Estime, but at the same time, he still brought him down, and he's still willing to mix it up. Yeah, I mean, you see that freight train come barreling in. There's sometimes you're like, I'll just tap him out. You know what I mean?
Oh, hammy pulled. Oh, sorry, Coach. I was going to D him up. I was going to blast him, and my hammy gave out. I'm sorry. I'm good now, though. Right.
Because you're talking, 190 versus 230. So, I mean, there's a 40-pound difference there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought he did a good job as well. So, I was impressed with Ramon today.
Now, another guy that I want that I'm going to bring this up, Ryan Barnes.
Yeah.
How'd Brian look today?
Well, look, he's another guy that I noticed during FSA. Kind of had his shirt tucked up underneath his pads, so you could see kind of the midsection. He's so long. Like that's what stood out to me right away was how long and athletic he is, and then he's just smooth, right? He's just so smooth, and I think that there's a lot that he's taking in mentally right now, but athletically and just being smooth is just so good.
Which is something you don't often see for 6'3" corners. They tend to have a little bit of tightness. Yeah,
6'3".
He's actually the tallest corner they have.
Has to be.
Right?
Yeah, I saw them running together, and I was like. Okay,
he's even taller than Cam Hart, I believe.
Yeah,
I believe
it looked it. I mean, he just looks long.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He could still stand to gain some weight. You know what I mean? Kind of fill out that frame. He's skinny. Yeah, he's skinny. Which is probably why he's running with the 3s
Cam Hart's 207 and Ryan Barnes is 187. Right.
Yeah. And he's 187 soaking wet. I'm telling you, like he's a skinny dude. So there's room to put some weight on there and not lose any of that smoothness or that speed. So that's just going to take a little bit of time. Yeah. He'll rise. I have no doubt in that.
There's a lot of people at Notre Dame that are very high on him and think he's going to have a chance to play this year. And we'll just kind of wrap up quickly. Vince, you had said to me in our practice report that Chance Tucker, JoJo Johnson, really athletic players, just like most freshmen on day 6. Just like Ryan Barnes, just like Philip Riley, still has a lot to learn technically. But what I noticed from you, Vince, is I'll just say this, and you tell me if I'm correct. From you and I's conversation before the show, whenever you were the thing that I noticed about your comments to me about the freshmen was it sounds like this is a really athletic group of freshman corners. And then Prince Collie, we didn't talk
about Prince.
So we'll add him in during this conversation too. But the one thing you kept saying to me is like, man, these guys can run. Man, these guys can run. Just they don't know what they're doing yet, right? Which as a is, you realize most freshmen don't buy practice 6, especially a lot of these guys, Chance, JoJo, and Prince were not early enrollees.
Right.
So this is literally practice 6 for them.
Yeah. They're drinking through a fire hose. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. But again, they don't look like freshmen when it comes from a physicality and attributes standpoint,
athleticism,
right? Exactly. They don't look like freshmen. I know they're freshmen because I know what their numbers are, but other than that, I don't think I would have been able to tell that they were necessarily freshmen, so that's a really, really good thing. You can tell that these guys are coming in just more physically prepared to play. They're not projects.
Yeah. Now, before we get into questions, Vince, if people want to know why I pursued Built Bar as a sponsor, obviously I really like their product, but there's another reason. I really like what the company is about. There's something on Twitter that just came across. I just saw somebody tagged me in it. One of the NIL deals that Built Bar is doing is they're paying full tuition for all 36 walk-ons for BYU football.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
All 36?
All 36. We'll pay the
BYU's a private school.
Yes, BYU. Yes, Utah-based Built Bar will pay the tuition of all 36 walk-ons of BYU football. That's a pretty cool deal right there. So but that is today's practice report. So Vince, I am at the 323 mark. I don't know where you are.
I'm at the top, but eventually I'll get bumped. So
sure. So let's just try to knock out as many of these as possible. Until we get to the part where I'm at. So let's rock and roll.
Delusional Jack Cohn fan. So upset they didn't name Cohn the starter.
Yeah. Now you can pull these up, Vince, and I'll read them off if you'd like, so that way you can answer them. Just kind of like what we normally do when
absolutely.
Kind of flipping roles a little bit today. I'm Vince, he's Brian.
That's all good. I definitely want to put this up there in case anybody had not heard that yet. Let's see.
If you joined the show late.
Yeah. Here we go. I'll put this up here. I think this is a joke, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'll let you handle that one.
Tommy Guns. I'm not even going to read that so people don't even hear it. But no, that's a great response.
I get it now.
So basically what Tommy's having a little message board humor.
Yeah, he is.
So essentially I started a rumor by not saying something about someone. So literally me saying nothing and then saying I have no comment resulted in people saying I said a kid was kicked out of school, kicked off the team, academics, all these other nonsense. So I did an update last night. And of course, I didn't mention Kyle Hamilton. I didn't mention Avery Davis either. And people on the board were like, oh, no, was Avery Davis kicked off the team in fun, right?
Yes,
having some fun with it. And so that's what Tommy is referring to here. Very well played, my friend. Very well played. He's not kicked off the team. He's not injured. None of that stuff is true.
It's good.
Just so some idiots don't start saying that I started a rumor that I didn't start again.
Right.
So anyway, there you go.
All right. There's one for you.
Yeah. AJ says, I wish I had been a member of the media today. Seemed like 80% of the questions were defense related. I want more answers about the offense. Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting too, Vince. Like I kind of felt like that would have been the side of the ball where most of the questions would be.
My guess is because we couldn't see the defense very well from where they had us positioned, and I didn't hear the questions because I was en route home to get to hear this. But it was really hard to get a feel for the defense because when they would come over to the offensive field, which is the one that we were positioned at, we had to stay in kind of one area, right? So they would come over when they would do offense versus defense, and then the defense would go to the field that's beyond the field that the offense is on. So it was 2 fields away from where we were. So it was really hard to kind of see what the defense was up to. So that's my guess. But I could be wrong as to why that would be. But
somebody else also asked a question about why, if I can ask questions. I'm allowed to ask questions at press conferences. I don't feel it's right for me to ask questions about a practice I wasn't at. So that's why I didn't ask any questions. I mean, that just wouldn't seem like it'd be an overly professional thing to do. If there's other press conferences that are like different in nature, set of sort of a post-practice thing, couple nuggets from the practice. Vince, as you're looking for the next one. Also, Brian Kelly said they will name captains on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Which is tomorrow, I believe. He originally said they do it Monday. Now he's saying that they're going to do it Friday. We'll see. He also said they're very, very close to naming a starting quarterback. They know who that's going to be. it's going to be Jack Cohn, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I
going to
mean,
be the most anticlimactic quarterback
Yes.
announcement ever. And the fact that they're doing it so soon is just further evidence of the fact that Jack Cohn has certainly separated himself. And Tatted Up Irishman says, so if Cohn is so obviously the starter, what reasons do they have to wait on naming him? I think number one, just to allow those other kids to continue to compete and battle. I mean, because look, if you know he's going to be the guy and then you get to practice 6 and you go out there in a scrimmage and all of a sudden Drew Pine just plays out, runs circles around Drew Pine or Jack Cohn and Tyler Buckner, then you may keep that battle open a little bit. You want to give those younger players that are battling and have had good off seasons and good camps as well. And hey, look, you're going to get a chance to continue to compete for this thing. They got today's practice. Drew got a lot of the first team reps. They're going to have a scrimmage on Saturday where Drew will get a lot of reps. So essentially, this is an opportunity for them to do that. And as Alan English said in his comment, there's some value in keeping the other guys engaged. That's true, but if they know that another guy's going to start, then it can be a little bit different. But I just think it's smart to continue to do that. I think it's smart to continue to allow Drew Pine to get some of those first team reps in the first week. And then once you kind of get into week 2, that's when you start to, separate. And then you kind of get into once you get into week 3, Vince, it's okay. We're going to start actually doing a little bit of prep for Florida State at that point in time.
Exactly.
So I have no problem with it. Yeah, from Brian Kelly and from Vince. So look, this is a very athletic, talented group. We've been talking about this all summer, and this is a group that's got a lot of potential.
Talking about the wide receivers,
receivers, and a lot of talent. And I know that a lot of people are concerned about it, and I get it. We're only 6 practices in. There's a lot of time to stay healthy that you have to stay healthy through. But I really think some people are don't quite grasp yet just how talented this group is. And part of it's because they haven't been given the opportunity to play in some instances, or they have been banged up and haven't been able to earn the opportunity to play because they've been healthy. So they haven't been healthy. So I really think this is a talented group. I really do. Not really, no. Delusional Jack Cohn fans said, do they have a scrimmage state? Not really. As Vince said, it was just like it was a team period. They call a scrimmage. Some coaches will do that, but it wasn't a traditional scrimmage in that sense. OC Irish fan says, other than overall population, Indiana ranks 4th with the boarding states. Why is the quality of potential recruits less than Illinois, Ohio, Michigan? Love the Notre Dame. Ranks 4th. I don't understand.
I think
other than overall population.
I think he says maybe 4th for recruiting out of those 4.
Sure.
That's my guess.
I don't quite understand that. Well, I mean, but overall population is the big thing, though. OC, that's the whole point. Is if you have 20 million people and I have 5 million people, the odds of me producing the same volume of those other things is lower. I also think the fact that Indiana is traditionally a state that produces a lot more basketball players. You have kids that maybe would have gone and been pretty good wide receivers that end up being shooting guards. I think that's part of it, part of it as well. It's why does a state like New York produce so many great basketball players but produces very little football players? It's just part of it's the emphasis of the state. So I think that factors into it as well. But I think the population part is the really big thing. It just and just sort of there's not a lot. I mean, there's Indianapolis and Fort Wayne. Those are really the only 2 big population centers that there really are.
Surprisingly, that's where the best football is too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tommy Gunn's excited about Austin.
Yeah, I can see that.
Believe me, after watching today, not that I wasn't before, but to see him move around the way he did today is very, very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame 2164. I'm not sure what this is about, but I apologize.
Because you weren't on the show yesterday.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yesterday was my first day of school. So, and then Brian had that awesome interview already all lined up. So it actually worked out pretty well for all of us. So dealing with all the kiddos yesterday and the chaos of day one was
trying to explain that first week back of school is never.
Let's just say they're not too happy that I'm not there right now, but I have priorities. Okay.
That's right.
Priorities.
That's right.
Tyler, there you go, Brian.
Yeah. Tyler Dijic says, if Kevin Austin can stay healthy, oh boy, will the beast finally be unleashed this year? Yeah. It's just about him being healthy. I mean, that's the thing is Look, I think he's got his head on straight. I was told he got his head on straight last year. I was told his attitude. I mean, we talked about this over a year ago, Vince, where going into last season, during the summer, Kevin had a great attitude. He'd learned from his mistakes. He'd grown up a lot. He'd matured a lot. He was putting in the work. He had the right focus. He just got hurt, So I don't think I think some of those young teenage maturity issues that got him in trouble are a thing of the past, from what I'm told. And that's a good thing. He just got injured. So the question is, can he be healthy? I'll be honest with you, Vince, I'm still a little bit hesitant to fully jump on board with it because I need to see him get through. I need to see him do today in 3 weeks, essentially, and still be healthy.
Yeah.
But the talent has never been a question. I mean, we've talked about this on the show. I mean, when he's been in practice, he's been out there. There's never been a doubt about his talent. It's just, can he stay on the field? That's the big key. But yes, if he's healthy this year, Tyler, I do think that the beast will be unleashed. And I think there's going to be some changes on offense that are going to benefit him as well. That's going to be a big thing too.
I forgot to mention this. They did a period where they were just working on their screen game, and it was refreshing. Okay, because we all know that Notre Dame hasn't really dove into the screen game in the past few years. That the amount of like misdirection and fun stuff of that nature, it was fun. I mean, it was just fun to watch. I'm not going to get into details and stuff because I'm sure they don't want that. But it was really fun to watch.
They definitely, if we want to maintain practice access, that's why we don't. Yeah, give
absolutely.
A lot of specifics. They were running this concept, and the read was this, and yeah.
But just saying that they were working on the screen game, I don't think is going to get us in trouble. But I was very impressed with what they were doing with the screen. It's clearly something that they're working on, which I think is great because they've got some great athletes to be working screen game with. And so I will say that was fun to see. I got bumped to 338, so I don't know if you have anything.
Okay,
about that.
So I am. Okay. I am.
Cool.
So Domer Grizz asks, do you expect the cornerback rotation to be a true two deep, or do you expect the fourth cornerback to come in at multiple spots and reshuffle as needed, like on the O-line? I don't know if we'll necessarily definitely see a fourth corner. And I don't think when we talk about rotating, a lot of this is not just going to be the number 2 guy goes in.
Right.
There may be times when they may put, who knows, they may put, if they don't have a second boundary corner that they have confidence in, they're not just going to put the number 2 boundary corner in there. It may be a situation where maybe, and again, this is hypothetical, but Clarence Lewis may cross train at the boundary, and then they put, Tariq Bracy in there. That there's all types of things that they can do. But yes, I do think we'll see a rotation there. I don't think it's a given that it'll be 4. I think Ramon Henderson, Ryan Barnes, Philip Riley, those guys got to earn that 4th job. But if they do, they'll be there. Go ahead, Vince.
To that point, I believe, because they were on the other field, so it's kind of hard to see, but I believe they were moving the ball back and forth between hashes. And the corners were practicing at times just staying right and left,
which they have to.
Which
you
they
can't
absolutely
switch
have
if you're
to.
playing a tempo team. You have to, right? Which is smart to be working on that now.
Yes,
you don't wait till the week of the North Carolina game
yeah.
or exactly. You don't wait till the week of the USC game to start working on playing left, right.
Right.
You or your side of the field. So yeah, it's smart that they're doing that.
Yep, absolutely.
Matt Romero says Estime looked remarkably flexible in his high school film for as big as he is. He consistently took hits and kept his trajectory with great balance in his hips.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation, Matt. I will say this. I do think he's about 15 pounds bigger now than he was as a high school senior.
But he's still fluid, man.
But
he's smooth.
That balance that Matt talked about is the really big thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's one thing to be big and strong, but if you're big and strong, but you're stiff and you're not flexible, you don't have balance and all that, you're still gonna go down, right? When you get hit by a dude that's your size, you're still gonna go down. It's that not only does he have the power, but that balance, and that's the thing that stood out to me on film with him and Logan Diggs is they have great feet, in my opinion. Hey Bob 157 says, do you think Buckner would not be as clear of a number 3 if he had a senior season? Will that hurt his development long term, or will it just take an extra year? It's a great question, Hey Bob. I think it's a great question. I still think he would probably be the clear number 3 as the 6th practice of fall camp. But I think it's going to take a year for him to fully get that back. Mm-hmm. No question about it. I think not playing his senior year definitely hurt his development.
Sure.
Would he be in the competition to start this year? Probably not, because Jack Cohn's really good. Would the competition for number 2 be a little bit different? Yeah. but I'll stand by what I've been saying all offseason. I still think Tyler Buchner is the kind of talent that you're going to have to find a role for him this year.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator that I think he can be, I think we'll see that at some point in time. It doesn't even necessarily mean that he's going to be the backup quarterback. It still may be Drew Pine that's the backup quarterback. But when you have athletes like that, you just got to find a way to get him on the field. He's so talented. Do I think it would be here's the thing about this question, though, hey, Bob, is if he played his senior year, I think that role might be even more expanded.
Yes.
That's the thing, is where now it's just using his dynamic athleticism, where then it might be a true, hey, let's get him in there and let him run the offense for a series or two here and there. Where now it's just let's let him be really athletic. And that's
which is what showed today. Like when things would break down and he got outside with his legs, Duke can move.
Right. And what you will see, Vince, is if let's just say hypothetically that Tommy Rees does what we've been talking about all summer. He's not going to put him in there and say, hey, drop back and go through your, your 4-man, your 5-man reads. And it's going to be, okay, let's kind of like, get rid of the middleman. Let's not wait till a play breaks down. Let's just move him.
Yep.
Do a sprint out where he either makes a quick throw or he's running. Do a quarterback designed read. Do something like that where you're just letting him be athletic to where it's 1-2 go, or just go. It may just be go. And that's the kind of the interesting stuff that could come about, and they could do it. It can be it can be difficult to kind of figure that out. It's something you have to practice. You don't just do it the week of the Florida State game.
Right.
But I think once Jack Cohn is locked in as the starter, that's when you can start to figure out, okay, what can we do with him? And I'll be honest, I think it would be smart for them at times to put Tyler Buchner down on the scout team. I really do. Because I think there's, especially in fall camp, where make sure that he's still learning the offense and he's doing all that, but let him go be chased around by the defense.
Right.
Let him go get those reps, because he's going to get a lot more reps doing that in the middle of August than he is going to be the number 3 quarterback in this offense.
And let him be the guy with that group. You know what I mean? Like lead that group. Give him a chance to be a leader too.
Let him get the reps. Yeah. Let him throw the ball. Let him run around. Let him use his legs to make plays. Because if the defense has to chase him around in fall camp, it's also going to make them more prepared to play against mobile Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton. It's going to make them a lot more prepared to play against some of the mobile quarterbacks they're going to play this year. But I think it's a good experience for him, and it helps make up for some of that lost opportunities, as long as you're still making sure that he's still getting the opportunities with the first team. So it wouldn't be like all the time. It wouldn't be 7-on-7 that I'd have him down there per se, but it may be more of, some team periods, maybe some inside run periods, some different things like that where you can let him use his athleticism. Mike Hoff says Cohn is QB1 easily. I agree. Buchner in 22 or 23. Agree with that too. Sid Irish says BK seems to be very relaxed this year. I would say probably, yeah. He's out there cracking the corny jokes again today, but no, he definitely does seem a lot looser than he has in the past.
He didn't get all fired up at practice today in a negative way, except one time when he got on his coaches. But other than that, he was just kind of there, which is good.
Yep. Andrew Goss says that Drew Pine needs to challenge Jack Cohn for that role this entire season. I don't agree with that. I don't. I mean, it'd be nice if he did that, but Vince, you've seen it, right? You saw it today. Jack Cohn's clearly the best quarterback on the roster right now.
Right.
He's a really good player. We should have a podcast. We're gonna have a podcast about this at some point in time soon. Jack Cohn's really good. I'm gonna stress that again. He's really good. I've been saying it since January. Yep. He's really good. Alan English is all in on court. So we're already skipping past the 2021 season.
I'm not even worried about this year.
They're talking about the Ohio State game,
which is great. Look, I'm excited about next year too, but I think this team could be special this year.
We're in practice 6 of 2021, so we're going to focus on questions about that.
Yeah.
SMP 15. Is Buchner's best chance at starting halfway through the season? I'm just rooting for him to be seen on the field this year rather than next.
No.
Unless Jack Cohn gets hurt. Look, Jack Cohn is the starting quarterback. Jack Cohn is really good.
Yeah.
Tyler Buchner's time will come.
And look, Tyler Buchner was the 3rd best quarterback on the field today. As of today.
Because you have to include the passing part, right?
You have to. You have to include the whole thing, you know, running the team, being confident, going through your all of that. You have to check all the boxes. And he has the least amount of boxes checked on August 12th of 2021 right? I would be very nervous if Tyler Buchner was the perceived starter right now about the season. I would be. And so, but that's not the case. They're allowing him to come along and learn as he goes. Remember, Tyler Buchner had 1 year of high school.
Right. Right.
So.
Yep. So we'll see here. Oh boy. We're going to skip past the Gunnar Kiel Arch Manning comments.
Well, where I got jumped to, I can see that there's Arch Manning stuff being talked about.
And we're Phil Dracovic. We're going to skip through those two.
Again, I'm at 338.
Right. Ryan Anderson. This is a good question. Is Ademilola as good as advertised, or is the interior offensive line not good?
I would say the first.
Yeah.
Because the interior offensive line, I actually have a decent amount of confidence in.
Right.
I really do, because Patterson is potentially one of the best centers in the country.
He is one of the best centers in the country, I would say. Yeah.
Trying to be modest, I guess, but
no, there's no place for that at Irish Spring. I'm just I'm kidding.
I think from a run blocking standpoint, I think Kane Madden's pretty good. Double teaming and doing things of that nature, staying within his realm. I think he's pretty good. And I think Zeke Correll's pretty good at interior offensive lineman too. So I think Jason's just that good.
And really honestly, Ryan, this is a very fair question. I think
it is.
As much as we've criticized been concerned about the offensive line, it's very fair to ask that. I would encourage you to go watch the Alabama game again. And I know most people don't want to do that, but just watch it and just focus on 57. When he's in the game. If he's not in the game, fast forward to the next play, because it wasn't pretty. Watch 57. He was one of the 2 or 3 best defensive players on the field that day, regardless of team. He was that good that day. So I think he is that good. Here's an interesting one, Vince. This is he's kind of joking, but I think maybe deep down kind of not, because I'm right there with him. AJ says, well, this may be a him or her. I don't know if this is a him or her. AJ says, all right, Kevin Austin proved he's fully recovered. Now rest him until the season starts. Kidding. To which I respond, I don't know. Are you really kidding? I'm not. You know what I mean?
I so want him to be healthy all year.
Yes.
And if that means putting him on a pitch count during practice, so be it. Because he clearly knows the offense. Clearly knows what he's doing. Now, there's something to be said with getting his timing down with Jack Cohn and all of that.
That's what June and July is for, man.
Yeah, he's fine. It's good. I mean, I would have him. I would be careful. Just put it that way.
Corey D asks, will Justin Ademilola be ready for Florida State? My understanding is yes. My understanding is he's only be out like a week and a half, 2 weeks or so, and he got hurt a couple days ago. So he should be back by the middle of fall camp. So yeah. No question. John Klimek agrees with AJ, by the way. Yeah.
I don't blame him. I get it.
Sid Irish says, I won't believe in Austin until he does something in meaningful play. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. That's fine. I get that. I mean, guy's got 6 career catches. He's made 1 catch in a non-backup situation. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to say, see, where I would disagree is the believe in part. I would say I wouldn't count on him until he does something in a meaningful play. But the talent is obvious.
It's clear.
I mean, it's been clear since he was a freshman.
Yes, that's why he played as a freshman.
Right. He's a freaky talent. Right. Yeah. He's a freaky talent.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And so again, Sid, I'm with you on the skepticism of counting on him. I get that, but the believing in him, look, the talent is real. You should believe in the talent. The kid is incredibly talented. I've had people tell me they think he's a first round pick, talent wise. Now again, he's got if he comes out after this year, I don't care what he does. I don't see him being a first round pick, Vince, because just the track record, right?
Yeah, right.
But the kid's very talented. There's no question about it. Zach Garza says Buckner's going to be very good. He just needs time and reps. 2023 is going to be awesome, and 2022 if he beats Pine out. Very fair statement, Zach. Very fair statement. Yeah, he's going to have to beat out Drew Pine first, which won't be easy. Is he capable of doing it? Sure. But we're going to find that out down the road. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that after the season. I'm sure that will, Okay, Mike Hobb, there's this long conversation going on about Arch Manning. He says, let's not act like Arch Manning is not a tippy-top QB prospect, y'all, because he is. No one's ever said he's not a really good quarterback prospect. Number one, I've said and will declare Dante Moore's better than he is, in my opinion. I just think he is. But Arch is still really good.
Yeah.
But he's not coming to Notre Dame, so I don't know why we keep talking about it. Let's see here.
You might be getting close to where I'm at. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm at 337.
Okay, yeah, you're definitely close.
Still a lot of arch. Can we actually talk about, I don't know, Notre Dame?
Delusional Jack Cohn fans got a good one. We're at 338.
Okay.
You want to pull that up?
Yeah, might as well, because everything I'm going through right now is just talking about Arch Manning.
Yeah, he said, Vince, did you see any Avery Davis and Xavier Watts today? Yeah, I did. I think my guess is Xavier Watts got a little injured at the end because he didn't have his helmet and it was nowhere near
it's like
him.
A little like hamstring kind of thing, which we're hearing a lot.
Tweak.
There's been several receivers and people that have heard that. So I think Notre Dame's have to consider, looking at what's our workload like?
Yeah.
It's just a couple things like that. What do we do in post-practice?
Right.
Because we've seen several guys kind of go down with hammies so far this camp. So that's
So he was involved early during some one-on-ones and things of that nature. And he looked good. He looked good. Avery Davis just looked solid. I mean, I guess he really didn't make the practice report, but he was starting group. He looked like Avery Davis. You know what I mean? Like he looked like the way I assumed he would look, and I guess so. It wasn't really practice report mentionable, but he's going to be just fine. He'll be a starter. So all good on the Avery Davis front.
Yeah, you know what he can do already. I mean, that's the thing is there's other guys you need to see.
That's exactly
Here's an interesting comment, Vince. Spartan B88. Hot take. Missing out on Will Shipley, meaning Notre Dame got Diggs and Estime, is the best thing that's happened to Notre Dame running back room in the last 10 years. I understand where he's coming from, but I can't agree with that.
Because that's how good Will Shipley is.
Because it's no guarantee that Notre Dame wouldn't have still taken Audric Estime even if they got Will Shipley.
Fair enough.
They still needed another back. So who's to say they wouldn't have got Will Shipley and Audric Estime? But I love those two Notre Dame backs. I've said it a long time, but Will Shipley's still really freaking good. And I still would have taken Will Shipley in a heartbeat. No question. No question.
Man.
All right. So let's see if we have any more questions here. All right. I'm just going to basically start booting people out for talking about Arch Manning because this is getting ridiculous.
Manning and more.
He's a junior in high school who's not come to Notre Dame. I'm not quite sure why he is dominating the conversation right now. Sean Rogers has an actual Notre Dame football question. Imagine that. Sean says, how did Prince Kollie look? I hear some of the veterans are really high on his play. So, Vince, we kind of mentioned a little bit. Yeah. We had an intel piece on him last night as well, which backed up what Vince is about to say from what he saw from him today.
Yeah, so for me, I thought that he looks fast. I mean, he looks smooth. He looks fast. There was one play where there's like a swing pass to a running back, and he was in the running back's face right when the ball got there. Like that's quick read, react type stuff. He still looks a little small to me, but he's playing Rover. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have the size. But I mean, it's going to take him some time, but from an athletic standpoint, again, he kind of falls into that category, like the corners. Like he just looks athletic. He looks ready to go. Doesn't look like a freshman. And that's a compliment during, practice number 6. Right. But he was playing with that third group. He was playing Rover with that third group. But he was flying around the football, he was making plays and, I would like to see him against the first group, that kind of a thing to really kind of understand. But just from an athletic standpoint, he looks solid. I mean,
and that's what I've been. Solid. Yeah, what I was told from the. Sorry, Vince. I thought you were. I wasn't expecting the second he looked solid. I apologize for cutting you off. Sorry, I can't help myself.
It's all good.
What I was told, we had in our intel feature last night at Irish Breakdown on the message boards, and I'm going to keep dropping that because, again, I've told y'all we will not withhold things from you in the live chat. We won't. I mean, there's always going to be some things we will, but we were already withholding those things. We're not going to start withholding things, but what the advantage of this is you can get more in depth and you can get it right away on the message board. So if you were on the message board last night, you would have seen the piece we had, which is essentially he's $1 million athletically. He's an incredibly talented player. The thing is, he was not an early enrollee. So this is practice 6 for him. This isn't practice 21 for him. The early enrollees. This is practice 6.
Exactly.
He's going to be swimming mentally. I mean, some of I've had freshmen that became really good players for us when I was a coach. We would not have looked back on practice 7 and said, gee, that kid's going to be really good for us this year. He looked like this kid doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's almost always. You'll rarely get a kid that just kind of comes in and picks things up immediately. But athletically, he's everything that Notre Dame had hoped he would be. And here's the thing too, Vince, is he's really filled out his frame a lot from where he was in high school. my question whenever I ask this every time, when a guy comes in and he's put on a lot of weight, especially upper body weight, I ask, is he going to get tight? Is he going to get stiff? Is he going to lose that explosiveness? With Prince, that has not been a problem.
No,
he is very explosive from what I'm told. And then Vince, you saw that today. So we put that out last night. Vince hadn't read it yet by the time he got done with practice.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw today.
Yeah.
So
I thought he looked real fast. He doesn't look 222 from far
Right.
away. You know, he still looks a little small, to be honest with you. So I feel like he can still add a little bit of weight to that frame and still be fast and explosive. I don't know how much more you really want to put on there. You know, as a rover. Now, if you're going to move him inside, that's another conversation altogether. But I thought he looked smooth and fast today, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Here's a couple more. Sid Irish said that Prince looks like a third-year player physically. Hey, Vince, do you want to go down and grab that super chat real quick from Old Grim?
Absolutely.
I know who that's from. I see the OL. There you go.
The OL. That's it. You know that's who it is. Old Grim, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. He says, seems to me that the speed on both sides of the ball make each better for the season. Am I right? 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And, you know, 10 years ago, that's what we were banging on the drum about, you know, team speed. It's not an issue anymore. It's not. And if you hear that as an excuse, if they lose a game or something along those lines, it's an excuse. It's not reality. There's so much team speed on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, it's going to help out both sides. There's no question about it. And you're going to see it with your own little ojos when it's game time on both sides of the ball for sure.
Look at you speaking foreign languages. We're bringing all types of facts and data to y'all today.
It's from my Puerto Rican grandmother.
Yeah.
She always
said, but old Grim, thank you for that super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. He must be excited about practice day because he's not out golfing right now. He's actually in the super chat. He's in the chat. So I'm pretty fired up. So I appreciate that.
Solid point.
DJ, here we go. Sorry, wrong one. Mike Huff says, or Mr. Hewtown. Sorry, I was reading Mike Huff's because he's still talking about the. Oh, actually, Mike was actually finally off the 2023 quarterback thing. So I apologize, Mike. Mike says, and I'm with this. It's been a long, long time since I've been this worried about the offensive line. I'm sympathetic to that. Me too. I don't think the offensive line is going to be a weakness. I don't think it won't be worse than the 2019 or 2018 lines, in my opinion. And Notre Dame went, what was the regular season record during those 2 years, Vince? It was, I believe, 22-2.
Yeah, right. They were all right. Yeah.
So I'm not making light of it at all, Mike, because I think the offensive line is, can they win a championship with the offensive line doesn't play well? No, I don't think they can. But it's not like it's going to be so bad that they're going to lose games. And that's where the skill comes into play, because we've seen Clemson win national titles with mediocre offensive lines. Now, Notre Dame doesn't have Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson at quarterback, as much as I love Jack Cohn. So, yes, the line's going to need to play better. But am I worried about the line? Yes. Do I think it's going to be some handicap that causes them to go 8-4 this year? No. It'd have to be really bad. And if they're that bad on the offensive line, then people should get fired, right? And you know me, I don't call for people to get fired. But if the offensive line's that bad, then people should get fired because there's no excuse for that.
Correct.
You've got veterans, you've got experience, you've got talent. They're going to be okay. They're going to at least be solid. And all they need is to be solid to win at least 10 games on their schedule, in my opinion. If they're anything beyond solid, Notre Dame will still have a chance to win every single game they play this year. Now, if the concern is will they be as good as they were last year or in 2017,
then okay.
No, they're not going to be,
because they don't have the veteran. Right. They don't have those guys.
And I don't think they have anyone that's got the talent level of like Blake Fisher will eventually be could potentially be a top 10 draft pick, but he's not going to be a top 10 draft pick based on his play in 2021.
Right.
He's not going to be as good as Liam Eichenberg was. He just isn't this year. Now down the road, different story. But it doesn't mean he's going to be terrible. You know, Caden Madden may not be an All-American or people make him out to be, right? Let's just say he's not. But he's not going to be terrible, right? Zeke Correll can handle himself. Jared Patterson's All-American. Josh Luck has proven he can handle himself at tackle.
One note I wanted to mention about the offensive line that I did notice, because when they would scrimmage, the offense would be closest to us. Like we were the stands right behind the offense. Jared Patterson was clearly the leader of that offensive line. He was going up and down to each guy, and they were talking about assignments, and they were going back and forth about technique and things of that nature. Jared Patterson is clearly the verbal leader of that line. No question about it. And that's probably one of the main reasons that Brian Kelly wanted him still in the middle, which I totally understand. I get it. And so don't be surprised when they name captains if he doesn't have a C right
I'll be shocked
on his shirt.
Like I'll be absolutely floored.
Me too.
The only way I would not be surprised if you come to find out, like, hey, he said he didn't want it because he wanted someone else to have. Who knows? Like, it wouldn't have. I'd be shocked if Jarrett Patterson's not a captain.
He looked like a captain today, and the way he was coaching up his team, and his line.
Eichenberg and Hainsey and those guys have said in the past that he was once we got into games, Patterson was the leader of the line when it came to communication and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mr. Hewtown asks, how's everyone's feeling about the number 7 preseason coaches poll? Personally, I think it's a fair spot. I don't like it. I don't. And here's why I'll say that. Everything that people are holding against Notre Dame to drop them to 7, they're not holding against Texas A&M and Georgia. Georgia has fewer returning starters than Notre Dame does. What has Georgia proven in the last couple of years to make you think that they should be ranked? Not you speaking you to Mr. Hewtown, but just you generally speaking to the voters. What has Georgia done the last 2 years that makes you think they should be ranked higher? Right? I don't get that one. Right? I really don't understand that one. They played 2 good teams last year and got blasted by both of them in the regular season. Right? So they barely beat Cincinnati in the postseason. Whoop-de-doo. Right? I mean, with all due respect to Cincinnati, a team like Georgia with the talent they have should not be beating a team like Cincinnati and the talent they have by 3. I'm sorry.
On the last second field goal.
Right. And they've got 12 starters coming back. No, I'm 11 or 12 starters coming back. Georgia does, which is fewer than Notre Dame. Everybody talks about how good Texas A&M is going to be this year, right? Well, what does everybody say is the big problem for Notre Dame, Vince? What are the 2 biggest concerns that people
offensive
have about
line and lack of a returning quarterback?
Guess what? Texas A&M lost a quarterback who got drafted higher than Ian Book, and they lost 4 starters along the offensive line.
Right.
What? And you want to talk about receiver problems? Go look at what Texas A&M's receivers did last year and talk to me about that, right? So what is it about Texas A&M? Oh, they got all these guys coming back from their defense, a defense that was kind of okay last year, right? A defense that gave up 27 points to North Carolina, right, in a bowl game. How many Notre Dame hold on. How many Notre Dame give up to North Carolina?
Not
North Carolina? It was 17, right? Yeah. Correct? Rhetorical question. And Notre Dame actually had to play against Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, and De'Ami Brown.
Yeah, because those guys didn't even play in the bowl game.
Play against Texas A&M, right? So, other than being in the SEC, what should give anyone reason to think that Georgia and Texas A&M are should be ranked higher than Notre Dame? There isn't a good argument you make other than they're in the SEC, because everything people say about this is the concern I have about Notre Dame is the exact same concern that Texas A&M has, and Notre Dame was better than Texas A&M was last year. They just were. So, it's a little frustrating. So, no, I'd have them 5. When I would. I'd have them 5. I think if I had them 5 in my Irish Breakdown Top 25 because, with all due respect, Notre Dame was better than Texas A&M last year, and everything people are banging Notre Dame about is exactly the same thing. They got Texas A&M has more starters coming back on defense from an inferior defense. Right? So, anyway. Yep, I think they should be ranked higher.
Well, and I don't like the teams that are around Notre Dame either. Iowa State, Cincinnati, North Carolina. I don't think they belong kind of in the same conversation. So that bothers me as well with where Notre Dame is placed. It's the teams that are around them. But it's the coaches poll. I don't put a whole lot of stock in the coaches poll.
I actually somewhat understand the Cincinnati one. Even though I don't necessarily agree with it, I understand it because Cincinnati was undefeated last year until the bowl game. Lost to Georgia by 3, and people overhyped Georgia, and that was a competitive game since they had a chance to win that game. So
they should have won that game.
I somewhat get that. I get that one, actually.
Okay,
fair enough. The Texas A&M one, I still feel is like, Texas A&M played one good team all year, and they got destroyed.
Right.
So, whatever. Delusional Jack Cohn fan asks, did we have Zeke Correll at left guard, and since Blake Fisher's out, who is at left tackle? Yes, he was at left guard, and Michael Carmody, you said, was the left tackle today? Yep. Was number 1 left tackle today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Sid Irish says a lot of people think Notre Dame is too high at number 7. Those are people that have that still are evaluating Notre Dame based off what they were 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Not what people have those people are not evaluating what Notre Dame has been the last 3 years, in my opinion. Sid Irish, talking about the 2015 team. Sid Irish says, just rewatched the 2015 Notre Dame versus Clemson. Notre Dame was loaded in 2015. Damn BVG. Definitely. Look, I've said this before. I think if Notre Dame would have had its 2017 coaching staff in 2015, I think defensive staff, and strength staff. Because I like Chip Long, but I think Mike Denbrock did a pretty good job too. I think they both were good coordinators. But defensive staff and strength staff in 2015,
yeah,
I think Notre Dame could have won a title that year. I really do. And then Sid Irish says the 2015 the entire 2015 O-line would have been drafted had Elmer played his career out. Agree. You had 3 first-round picks from that offensive line. Let me rephrase. You had 3 top 10 picks on that offensive line. You had Stanley and Nelson went 6, McGlinchey went 9, and Nick Martin went in the second round at like number 51. Elmer would have been at least a 4th or 5th round pick, in my opinion, had he stayed with football.
Oh, yeah.
No question. Sean Rogers says, never seen Kelly so giddy over wide receivers. This could be a really good thing for Notre Dame Nation. I agree.
Yeah.
And there's a reason to be excited about it. Vince and I have been just that giddy about it all offseason. I mean, it really is a talented group.
Well, I think they're giddy about a lot of the skill positions that are on the team right now because of the way we haven't seen them substitute like they were today, both at receiver and at corner. And just the way that they were doing things, kind of bringing guys in and out and things of that nature. Brian was asking me, hey, what about this guy? What about this? I'm like, they're moving so fast. Like there's guys going in and out. I'm like, but that, I do believe that that's a good thing. I really do, because they are very happy with their depth. And I think a lot of those guys are going to get playing time. At least that's my hope. So I think it's very good for ND Nation. I agree with you.
All right, so let's see. Vince, I got bumped down a little bit, so I'm now at the 351 mark.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't know where you are.
I saw your last comment, so we're good. Mike Huff says we have elite, legitimate speed at every level on both sides of the ball, and that's the first I've seen in decades. Agreed.
Yep.
Sid Irish says Foskey needs to take the next step, has first-round talent. He's got first-round measurables. For sure.
Yes, first round talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's will the light go on or not? That's the question. We're gonna have to find out. Yeah. And we really won't know. I don't care what he does in practice. I don't care if he doesn't have good days. I don't care if he has great days. We're not going to really know until we get to September 5th. In my opinion.
This is great. Mr. Hewtown, Houston's got that swag.
He does.
I think he does have a little bit of that swag. If you watch that video,
that
he put out about the uniforms and stuff, like I dig where Houston's coming from right now. And I think his play is backing it up at the present. So I dig it.
I just think he always needed somebody to believe in him.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
I agree. And that's huge. People don't understand how big
that
is.
Yeah.
John Klimek says, curious if the ends will be 4 down ends or if they Foskey Jordan will be 3rd down packages.
Yes, they will be 4 down ends. I think what we'll see is them moving around more in packages. Yes, they will be playing 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th down, all of it. Yeah, they'll be 4 down ends. At first, I wasn't sure if he meant like 4 down linemen.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
This is great. Sean Rogers says, can we just give Estime number 6 and call him Bus 2.0?
No, let him be Audric 1.0.
Hey,
look, he's good, but come on.
He's not Bettis yet. Bettis a Hall of Famer.
Nor will he probably ever be Bettis. I mean, that's just kind of like, that guy was right. And Jerome Bettis was an elite recruit coming out of high school too. He was. Okay, I think Audric could be really good, but Vince was impressed with his 4 or 5 yard runs today, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's just
right. Nolan,
this is me pumping the brakes.
That's you, yeah. Nolan Esparza. So, how much of Houston Griffith's success or lack of in the past is coaching related? I remember he was a big time Chicago guy that played at IMG, and everyone was excited about him.
I think a lot of it was coaching. I mean, look, am I going to sit there and say there were things Houston could have done differently? Sure. But look, he wasn't the one that chose to move him from corner to safety, from safety to corner, from nickel to corner to safety. It wasn't his choice. He wasn't like on a Tuesday. It's like, coach, I feel like playing corner today. No, it's like they went to him and he did what the team asked him to do. He did what they needed. And then, of course, his last couple of years, he played for a coach that just didn't develop him, didn't really do a good job of developing a lot of people. We saw a regression of that position by veterans the longer they stayed in the position, and a guy that is getting hammered right now at Texas for not recruiting, right? Which is exactly one of the complaints we had about him. He just doesn't put in work on a recruiting trail. So yeah, it's a guy that just didn't believe in him. Same reason Derek Allen transferred. Same reason Houston struggled. It's like the coach doesn't believe in you. It's like football's a hard sport. It's a grueling, grinding sport. And if your coach doesn't believe in you, it's kind of hard to get up that day and say, I'm going to give it everything I got. For why?
Right. Agreed.
It won't matter anyway. You know what I mean? And so I think that held Houston back. Now it's up to Houston to say, hey, look, you don't have that excuse anymore. You don't. It's now on you. So whether or not he's successful moving forward is going to be 100% on him. You know, so you can't use that because Joseph is gone now, right? Now it's his chance to say, hey, look, I am that good, and I'm going to go out and show you. And it's gonna be his chance to do it. It's a very good question, Nolan.
Blue Beamer, ND fan from Miami over here. Welcome.
Oh, yes.
Welcome, Blue.
Yes.
Good to have you in. Mr. Hewtown says Estime probably built more like Hughes than Buss. You probably be able to answer that
because I think Robert Hughes was a muscular kid too. Jerome Bettis was just big.
Right.
Like he was never as big in Notre Dame as he was in the pros, but like he just was big. He was shorter, squattier, just big. Robert Hughes was kind of cut up, jacked up. I'd say that's a pretty good evaluation there. I would say this. I would say that the difference is I think Audric Estime is more explosive than Robert Hughes was athletically. There you go. I think, but the very underrated part of Robert Hughes is he had phenomenal feet. He just was not explosive. And I think Logan Diggs and Audric Estime both are more explosive than him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see here. Michael Campbell says, cornerback Ramon Henderson, I'm hearing he's going to be good for Notre Dame. What did he look like today? He was running with the second group. Not the second group, I should say. The twos, they had different terminology today. He was the second group of out there at corner. I thought he looked good. You know, like I said, he wasn't afraid to stick his nose in there in the run game. I thought he looked good. He looked solid. No question. He's in the mix. He's in the mix.
Yep. Corey D with a good question for you, Vince. Vince, did you get the impression that Notre Dame will be a little more creative on offense this year, such as using jet sweep, screens, etc., based on today?
Absolutely. And like I said, they had a whole period that was designed towards screens, and what they were doing off of that leads me to say yes to this question. So absolutely, because you don't, let's put it this way. You don't fake stuff that you're not doing in the first place, because what's the point? You know what I mean? Like that from an offensive standpoint, right? That's just stupid, right? So I do believe that it is going to be more creative, and they're going to try to get more guys involved in the offense. Absolutely. Yep. And I think it's exciting, frankly.
Sid Irish asks, who are the freshmen that BK alluded to, the ones who aren't drinking from the fire hose? Ooh. That comment was made in a previous interview that BK had, I think, after the first practice. He was not referring to this team. He was referring to just freshmen in general. So when he was talking about there are some guys that are that way, I don't think he was talking about anybody on this team per se. I think it was just a general statement that, hey, sometimes there are some of those guys like, Michael Mayer last year,
right,
that are that way. But I did not take that comment to mean he was specifically talking about just this team, in my view. That would be because there's not a freshman that I've heard isn't struggling with that. Even Blake Fisher, I'm told is a lot of it. He wasn't there today, but I'm told he's getting a lot of extra attention in fall camp because he's behind those other guys, technical and wise and all that, which you should expect. So it's a rare thing, but I don't think you're talking about anyone on this team, Vince.
Yeah, no, I agree. But again, it's to be expected. Like I would expect freshmen to be struggling mentally with everything. I mean, play calls are going to be longer, practices are longer. Like it's just, I would expect it. I really would. So that's not overly surprising in any way to me.
Andrew Goss asks, do you think the new freshman will have an immediate impact on the team? As a whole, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, sure.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna litter the two deep at places. Once it's all said and done, once they get their feet underneath them, literally and figuratively. But yeah, I do think they will impact. And if they don't impact it from the two deep standpoint, they're going to impact it on special teams. So yes, I do think the freshman class will absolutely impact things.
Alan English, here's a good question. Vince, I don't think I heard you say how the tight end reps were distributed. I know a lot of it depends on how many they were using at a time. Who was getting reps?
Well, with the first team, it was primarily Mayer and Takis. They were pretty much the only guys running with the ones. which is to kind of be expected. They didn't run any 3 tight end stuff today. They ran some 2 tight end stuff today. They ran some 2 running back stuff today, which was good to see. I thought Kane Barong got a lot of looks today because they were running with that third group. Mm-hmm. And he was getting the ball a lot. Made a nice.
He looks fast.
Yeah, he looks real good. He looks real athletic. Made a nice kind of a toe tap catch on the sideline. Showing off that athleticism. Not a lot of tight ends can make that catch. Mm-hmm. And so I was really impressed with how Kane looked today. So, but the ones you're worried about,
really fast. I'm going to keep saying that. Like I've seen some like clips of him and some different things from him, and what he can run. Yeah, I mean he can really run. Yep. He looks natural catching the football, and that's the part you were talking about. Is he's a natural pass catcher?
Yes, and it showed. It showed
because he didn't catch the ball a ton in high school. So it's like you knew the athleticism was there, but they didn't throw him nearly as much as they should have. So it's kind of like, well, cow. But he's good. Corey D, Vince, who was returning punts?
They didn't do that today.
What special teams did they work on today?
They were working more on tackling.
Okay, so like covered kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, like they had a circuit is what they did, and so they brought everybody indoors, and they had like a 4-station circuit, and they all kind of rotated through the circuit, blocking punts, tackling, like that kind of. It was very high school. To be honest with you, so that's what they did for special teams.
No comment. Sparkling Swan. Is Coach Kelly going to finally use the speed he has on special teams when it comes to punt returns? It's been missing. Tyree Styles and Lindsay. Can I say something about that real quick?
Please do.
I don't think Chris Tyree is a punt return kind of guy. I think he's more of a,
he's a kick return kind of guy.
Yes. You need a guy that can make that. I mean, I think Kyron Williams would be a better punt returner than Chris Tyree, but I wouldn't use either one of them back there returning punts. I would have some of those receivers you have.
Logan Diggs, I wouldn't mind seeing him back there catching punts.
Lindsey's also not a guy I would have back there returning punts. Nope. Styles, Keys, Xavier Watts, Philip Riley, who was a pretty good return man in high school. There's guys like that. JoJo Johnson. I'd have guys like that back there returning punts before I'd have a couple of those guys, because it's not just about speed. It's also, look, to be a great punt returner, you have to make at least one guy miss.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that happen a lot with Logan Diggs today in the backfield. Yeah. Like he's shifty enough to make that first guy miss.
He was a pretty good punt returner in high school.
I would love to see
punt return in high school.
Yeah, that's good to know.
I didn't even think about that. That'd be because usually you don't think of a bigger guy, you think of a guy with more speed. But yeah, he's got great feet.
Yeah,
he can definitely make people miss.
Yep.
Here's a good one, Vince. Here's a real good one, and I don't think he's going to like my answer. Robert Didoff says, Brian and Vince, if the 2005 team beats USC and plays Texas in the Rose Bowl, do we win the national title? It seemed both defenses were mediocre that year. No.
You're not beating that Vince Young team.
They weren't stopping Vince Young.
Sorry.
Notre Dame's defense was not very good, and it got worse as the year went on because Chris Fromm got hurt.
Yeah.
And didn't he get hurt against USC? I believe he got hurt against USC. Ohio State, who did not have a great offense in 2005, put up over 600 yards of offense against Notre Dame. That defense. They would have got shredded by Texas. Now, would Notre Dame have also scored a lot? Yes, they'd have scored a lot. But it wouldn't have been the way that it was. It had probably been like 40-something to 41 to 28, 44 to 31, something like that. Notre Dame would have scored on Texas. They were not a great defense, but Notre Dame would not have had a shot at stopping that Texas offense, especially on that day. Because Vince Young, that was one of the best individual performances I've ever seen by a quarterback. I mean, of all time.
Can you put up Sid Irish's comment there?
Which one, at the 4-minute mark?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, she says I don't want to see anyone.
I just want to see anyone other than Salerno.
Let me tell you something. I don't disagree with you because he was a fair catch guy. I get that. That dude made some plays today, and we didn't talk about him. But as a wide receiver,
he's good. He's a good athlete.
He made some plays. Like
he fair caught the ball because that's what he was told to do.
Correct. Yes, but he made a couple one-handed catches. He made a couple of catches where he just went up and out-jumped people. Like, he's legitimately running with the twos right now.
That's also probably because there were some guys that were banged up today, and they were trying to get some young guys some work. But yeah, he's not going to be – I just want to make sure he's not going to be a second-team receiver.
Right, and he's not going to be in the rotation. Right. I'm just saying he's better than I thought he was seeing him in person today because he got a lot of opportunities today. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, throw Salerno a little bit of love.
Yeah. Sid Irish says, we don't beat Vince Young. That defense was sketchy. And again, I actually think the defense was decent before Chris Fromm got hurt because they had two, to me, guys that could legitimately rush the passer and play the run when they had Fromm and Abiamiri. But once Fromm went down, they were not the same.
Right.
They were not the same defense. Mike Huff says, we just need a QB1 to actually make the throws and not be timid. Do you think do you believe Cone can throw for 3,000 yards and 30 TDs? Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think he has to. I mean, the TDs part I don't care as much about. If he throws for 25 TDs because Notre Dame's, rushes for 1 million touchdowns, they're getting in the red zone and they're more run it in. I don't care. But yeah, I expect Jack Cone to be at least 65% completions, at least. I expect him to throw for at least 3,000 yards and at least 25 touchdowns would be where I would be with him. Assuming he is going to be, starts every game.
Right.
Let's see here. Maddie K wants to know this one, Vince. Hey, Vince, did you get to see any new drills today for any of the position groups? Also, does BK still do some of the environment drills like you did after they lost to Miami in 2017? They won't do that after
it's early. It's too early for that kind of stuff. The second part there, as far as the environment drills and things like that, they're still in the fundamental stages.
Right.
Things of that nature. As far as drills are concerned, I've seen a lot of drills in my time. I did not necessarily. There was one block destruction drill that the linebackers were doing. That I got on video, Brian. They would block destruct the first one, and then they would go to the next level, block destruct again, and then they would block destruct on an actual human being. So I thought that was very interesting. Marcus Freeman was running that drill, so I thought that was a good one. But other than that, I mean, it was your typical drills, footwork, recognition type stuff. So
Tommy Guns has a question for you, Vince. What is your favorite tackling drill that's no longer allowed? Example, Oklahoma. Bull in the ring.
I love Oklahoma. I'm sorry. Oklahoma is one of my favorite drills of all time because it is the easiest way to get the entire team fired up and going. And you also find out who you have on your team because there's always guys that hide in the back. And that always tells me a lot. I would film the Oklahoma drill so I could see who was hiding because I would always get fired up and like be a part of the drill and like get in there, slapping helmets, and jumping around as you might imagine. And then I would film it. And so then I would watch to see, okay, who's hiding out in the back? And it'd always be interesting to see who that might be. But I love Oklahoma drill. That's always fun. By the time I was coaching, I've been coaching for about 15 years. Bull in the Ring was already gone.
I never was part of that.
Yeah.
As a player, as a middle school, high school player, college, that was never one that
Yeah.
Because part of it is like, if you do it right, quote unquote, right, it's a clip, it's a penalty, blocking the back. You're teaching bad habits.
That's a good point.
The nice thing about Oklahoma, although I hated the drill overall, you're teaching block destruction, tackling. I mean, it's a practical football thing. I didn't like Oklahoma, and I don't. I've never coached in high school, but in college, I never liked Oklahoma because every year we'd lose at least two guys from Oklahoma. every year, at least two guys.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that explosive.
Yeah, I just felt like if a guy couldn't hit, if a guy wasn't willing to, like you made the comment, you're really going to see who can do what. Well, you're going to see that too when you go to team. If a guy doesn't want to hit, he's not going to hit as the middle linebacker. That's always going to be exposed. I just never liked it because practically speaking, we'd lose a guy every year, and I never had a problem with it as a player because I was a quarterback. I just handed the ball off.
Yeah, exactly. You never got touched in that drill.
And the way that we did Oklahoma my freshman year when I was playing receiver is we were just blocking. And so like we never did the whole ball carrying thing and tackling. I've never actually did that. Did it once in high school and it was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I was never. I think there's other ways to kind of find out someone's manhood in a way that isn't quite as costly, I guess is the way that I would look at it. But that's just me.
No, I hear you. And our problem was when we would go team, I never coached a team where we could be truly two platoon. Yeah. So it was always team
which is why I say it's different in college than it is in high school. Yeah. Right. So I mean I get that, right? And
that was our opportunity to go best on best. Because it was a smaller,
right. Which I get. I get. Matt Romero says, run one screen to Avery Davis, run it again one series later, and let the former QB recruit throw a bomb, elbow cough. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
That's the creativity.
Sid Irish likes it. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. John Climax says, Brian, who's the starting quarterback going to be? It's going to be Jack Cohn.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Easiest question out here so far.
Yep. Let's get down to here. I'm going to, again, pass over the 2023 quarterback debate conversations. Pierre says, how concerned should we be with Fisher already out with a concussion, thinking about longevity here? Not. I mean,
as long as they handle it the right way, which they will.
And the way that, from what Vince was telling me, and Vince, you correct me if I'm wrong, the way that they were handling Blake, he was out there. He was in the sun. He wasn't under the tent. It tells me it was more of a precautionary thing as opposed to he got a really bad concussion. Because if he got a really bad concussion, he's under the tent. He's not in the sun. You know, he's not out of practice. I mean, we've had guys that when you get a bad concussion, you are not out of practice the next day because you can't see straight. You can't be around drills and all that kind of stuff. So, Vince, am I correct in my assessment of what you had said about he was out there, he was in shorts and shirts, which would not have been the case if he had a bad concussion.
Yep. So he was moving around, he was jogging, he was going from drill to drill with the offensive linemen. So he was with them the whole time. He just wasn't participating.
Right, which tells me if he had this is more of a preventative. He probably had a couple symptoms of potential, and nowadays they take that stuff real seriously. Even if you show one symptom of a potential concussion, you're out.
The better safe than sorry.
I'm okay
with. I get it.
I'm okay with. I think some trainers can take it too far because it's like, well, that's not really a concussion symptom.
Met them.
Like that happens every time you tackle someone. Right. But if it's Notre Dame has not, from what I understand, it's not that way. So I'm not concerned about it. Now, if we hear Pierre that he's got another one and another one, then that could be concerned. But honestly, I'm not, especially a freshman. This is a whole different camp for him. So I'm not worried about it. Not yet, anyway. Cesar says, what level of confidence do you have in the starting quarterback for the season? I'm not sure if there's an official one named a starter. Just joined the live. Welcome to the show, by the way, man. Cesar. And looks like he's got is that a wedding picture in there? Like so I don't know if he was recently married as well, like our guy Andrew. So if you were, congratulations. But Vince and I are both I'm going to speak for you, Vince. So if I'm incorrect, you can correct me. We're both extremely confident in Jack Cohn, but we're also both confident in whoever starts. If Jack Cohn goes down, I don't think the season is over. I mean, I'm confident in all three of those kids. You also did know, we didn't say this, Brendan Clark was not going through quarterback drills.
He was not. Correct? He went through FSA, with a ball in his hand and the whole thing. But as soon as they started doing drill work, he was a spectator.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't go through anything. I mean, anything. Didn't even throw one-on-ones, nothing. So
Tommy Guns.
I saw that.
Concussions aren't that big of a deal. I've had two of them, and look at me. I forgot who Brian's favorite at quarterback was for 2023. Well done. Well done, Tom. All righty. Omar says, you guys watching my White Sox whip the Stankies in the Field of Dreams game. I've not watched a single pitch of baseball all year, nor do I plan to start today.
I've stopped watching baseball this year. I'm done.
Yep.
It's football season.
Yep, absolutely. And I stopped watching. Once spring practice started, it started football season for me, which meant I didn't care.
Yeah, you and I are not watching baseball for two completely different reasons. But
because my team's actually apparently decent this year, supposedly, which I don't care. I think they're in like second place or something in a battle for a wild card spot.
Maybe.
Yeah,
it might be.
That's what I went and looked at the standings the other day.
I stopped watching.
Yeah. So, see, I mean, if you're gonna hate on my squad, at least get the information correct, Vince. Yeah, they're in second place. They're 61 and 54. So they're right now third in the wild card battle. So, so there you go. How you like them apples?
No, my team's 16 and a half games back. So
spending a lot more money too. Pierre, what did the rotation look like at the will linebacker spot? Vince said it was Marist, JD, and Simon. Correct. In that order.
And it was very clear too. Yes.
Okay. Lamont J asks, if Freeman has a good year coaching, do you think he might take a head coaching job next year? I don't think he will. I think it would have to be like the right, like, wow, I can't believe that job came open, and I can't believe that they're asking me to take over. Like if Nick Saban retired next year, and I mean, maybe he'd consider that. If Ryan Day goes to the NFL, would he consider the Ohio State job? Yes. But I think overall, I believe that he's going to be here at least 2 seasons. Now,
Yeah.
beyond that, I'd be a little bit more nervous, but I think he's going to
Sure.
give Notre Dame I think he'll definitely give him more than 1 season. Beyond that, we don't know, but I think he'll definitely give him 1 for sure. All righty. Mike Huff, going to be hard even when the 22 class comes in to keep Collie off the field. Agree. Let's not forget Prince Collie was a top 50 recruit as well.
Yeah, no, he absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a great linebacker haul in 22, don't get me wrong, but they're still going to be freshmen, and Collie will have a year under his belt, which is going to be huge for him. No question.
And he's really good. I mean, he didn't get as much hype because he wasn't a high prospect when he committed. He became a top 50 to 100 recruit. He wasn't when he committed, he was a consensus 3-star recruit. Well, not everyone had him as a 3-star recruit, but most people did. So I think that kind of hurt some of the hype about him. He wasn't like, if he was ranked as high when he committed as he was when it ended, he would have been a big time pickup. But yeah, he's really, really good. Pierre says, how about Houston Griffith? Sounded like he is locked in and ready to ball this year. We talked about that. Agree with that, Pierre.
Yeah, he's looking good.
Corey D says, I was listening to a Florida State podcast and their fans genuinely believe they're going to upset the Irish. I mean, that's what's great about this time of the year. I mean,
of course they do.
I got no problem with that. They're not gonna, but yeah, I would hope that they've got optimism. That's
I don't even think it's going to be like close, but that's a different, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that when we get closer to
Mike Huff says, you guys think Tyree breaks out in a big way? Yeah. Now, will a big way mean like leading rusher and all that? No, I don't think he'll be that, but I think he's going to have a big year this year. David Knight jumped in with the big super chat, David.
Woo!
Thank you for that, buddy.
David. Appreciate that. He says in
77, Notre Dame started Rusty Lit. I'm sorry, Vince, what were you saying?
No, I was going to read it, so you go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Well, feel free.
In 1977, Notre Dame started Rusty Litch against Purdue. He got yanked due to poor performance. Enter Gary Forstick, and he was absolutely hammered by Purdue linebacker Fred Arrington, and he was done for the game. Enter Joe Montana. All three must be ready. He's right.
Yep.
You're absolutely correct. You look, regardless of the position, you have to coach your depth chart, and you have to coach everybody in it. And so that's an example of why you need to coach up your quarterbacks. But you're absolutely correct. You have to coach up your entire depth chart because, and it's cliche as all heck, but you're one injury away from needing to go to that guy.
We've seen that at Notre Dame.
Next guy,
2015. I mean, who'd have thought Malik Zaire wouldn't get out of the second game?
Exactly.
Who'd have thought Torian Folson at the beginning of that season wouldn't get past 2 carries?
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely, David, you're absolutely right. They've got to make sure that they're getting all those guys ready. Absolutely. Right. And that's also why we talked earlier about why we think Drew Pine is a great guy to have as a backup quarterback, because he does have so much of that intelligence and that leadership and that character that he could step in comfortably starting job. And then Tyler Buckner may not have that yet, but he's a dynamic talent. There's no question about it.
I think we left off at about 426.
Yep. We got Harold Fortin. Does Lorenzo Styles have any chance to break the lineup this year?
I mean, he's got an opportunity. He's running with the 2s right now, but I think he's got a chance. I mean, it depends on how deep they go with their rotation, and it depends on injuries. And if they go deep with their rotation, if they go 6-7 deep, then yeah, he's got an opportunity. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how deep they go, and that's still to be determined, in my opinion. I'm just not sure how deep they're going to go. I think they'll definitely go, let's see, Austin, Lindsey, Keys, Davis, Joe. They're at least going to go 5. I would feel very confident.
I think they'll definitely play 5.
Yeah, I would feel very confident in those 5. And then if
it doesn't mean it'll always be the same 5 either.
Also a very good point. And if they go any beyond that, then yes, absolutely, he's got a shot. Because I think he's that next group, like that next tier. I think that's where he sits at the present. Things can change in the next few weeks.
Now, would you consider this a breakout from Chris Tyree? 7+ 20-yard run, 600+ rushing yards, 7 to 9 touchdowns.
Not enough of one. I wouldn't call that a breakout. I would call that, a step up from last year. But I don't think I would call that a breakout. Maybe the 7 to 9 touchdowns, but I feel like he's going to have more than the 7+, and I feel like he may have more than the 600 yards as well.
I think I could consider that a breakout, depending on what also is involved in the pass game. I mean, if he runs for like 610 yards and averages,
that's all rushing,
right? And he averages about 7 yards a carry, and he's got 7 to 9 touchdowns, and then he can add a couple hundred yards in the pass game, 200-300 yards in the pass game, I'd consider that a breakout.
Speaking of the pass game with the running backs, I forgot about this play, and I wanted to mention it. There was a play, and I believe it was Jack Cohn was at quarterback. They were running sevens, and Williams was he was split out, and he ran an in route right behind the linebackers, and it was Bo Bauer was the middle linebacker, and Williams made a beautiful run right behind Bauer, and it was a perfect pass. Right as Williams got out from behind Bauer, there's the ball. There's Williams makes a diving catch for the ball, just showing off his receiver skills. That man is going to be amazing in the pass game. So great throw, great catch. That was one that I had forgotten about. I wanted to bring that one up.
Keegan McLaughlin, as a former O-line tight end, it takes so much through camp longer to gel together as an offensive line than the D. Let it play out. Now, if they are Swiss cheese against Florida State and then panic, that's a great point, Vince.
Perfect.
And we're 6 practices into fall camp.
Absolutely. I expect the defense to be better. And we think the defensive line specifically is really good. So that makes the chasm even bigger. So I'm not worried yet. Like we'll let you know. Yeah, the defense played better today. No question. But let it play out.
I agree. All right, let's get some more questions. Irish Medic agrees. Says, I played for Rutgers in the 1980s. O-line, you are so right. And it's been true for every team I've ever coached on. The defenses, if we were punishing the defense in the first week of practice as a team, now sometimes we'd have just great receivers and we'd do well against the DBs, but as an offense as a whole, it's a problem.
Yep.
It's definitely a problem. That says more about your defense than it would your offense, in my opinion. Some predictions for the Florida State game. These are always fun. I mean, I'd love to beat Florida State 42-0. I just don't see it. So he doesn't see it. But Matt Romero is pretty excited. He thinks Notre Dame beats Florida State 45-17. Knowles can't match Notre Dame's size and depth and speed, I would argue.
Agreed.
And Irish Medic says the Florida State offensive line is Swiss cheese. And he ain't wrong. He is not wrong. Nick Mayer says, I've been reading and hearing that Joe Alt, it looks like he may be 1 year ahead of schedule. Are you hearing this as well? I've heard that he has made a very good transition. Brian Kelly talked about it today, but again, he's had pads on for 2 days, full pads on for 2 days. So I'm not quite ready to go there yet. But I've heard, Vince, you talked about in the first practice, he moves really well and looks every bit of 300 pounds. That was my concern with him was, look, I gave him a 4.5-star upside grade. I thought he would need a couple years. When I heard that he was up to 300 pounds, I got nervous because I'm like, is it going to be bad weight? And from what you said, from what you've seen from him in practice so far, he's moving around pretty good. Like that extra weight's not hurting him. So that's a positive. All right, let's see here. Tommy Guns asks, hey, Tommy, I'm not gonna address this one just yet because we're actually going to do a show about this. I didn't want you to think we were ignoring you. We're going to kind of do a show, sort of a week preview of the big games. That's going to be one of the things we're going to do this year on the podcast, is kind of looking at some of the big games and making predictions. But yeah, we're going to do some of that. We're going to try to wrap up some of these. Michael Campbell says, not taking up for Georgia, but they had many top players out in the bowl. I'm so sick of this excuse for people for Georgia, and that's exactly why I have zero worries about the SEC media and fans selling this loss to Cincinnati as a guarantee. I get so tired of that from SEC people because, look, this is also the same Georgia team that in 2019 lost to a 4-8 South Carolina team, right? They also got blasted last year, by Florida smacked them last year, wasn't it? Like, Georgia has not done anything to prove that they should be a top. They had one good team or one great team. That team was made up primarily of Mark Richt recruits, correct? Because it was only Kirby's second year. And since then they've disappointed every year. I mean, they underachieve per their talent more than any team in the country. Yeah, they got smacked by Alabama last year. They looked good in the first half, got crushed in the second half, got smacked by Florida last year. And so I'm tired of the Georgia hype. I'm tired of it. All right, let's get down here and see if we got any more of these questions. We got to wrap this up. So I want to cut to a couple more. Unfortunately, we're going to have to skip a few of these questions. We'll get to them. So Friday. Friday
You a
free
DJ?
for all. Huh? No,
You a
No.
DJ?
a Friday show that I used to listen to back in the day.
Oh, gotcha.
But Friday mailbag will be here tomorrow. So if we missed a question, bring it in tomorrow.
Yeah,
Michael
absolutely.
Johnson says Texas A&M, Iowa State, Cincinnati, and Georgia are all overrated compared to Notre Dame. They have the same problem or worse. Notre Dame is getting the same respect as other teams nationally, so let's win the net. Is not getting the same respect other teams do nationally, and so let's win the Natty. They're going to have to finally get that respect.
Right. I want to pull this one up because I think it's interesting. Paul Benoit says, given the strength of the 22 recruiting class, is there a chance Donovan Heinisch is in danger of having his offer pulled? Do you think they should? There are still high-level guys available.
No and no. Because it's not always just about who's the most talented guy. There's a reason they offered Donovan Heinisch with those guys on the board, because they know what Kurt brought to the table as a player, but also mentality, attitude, work ethic. And there's needs for it's not always just about, this is something Clemson's been masterful with. It's not always about bringing in the highest ranked guys all the time.
Exactly.
You want elite talent, but you also need to make sure that you're building your 1 to 85 the right way. And there's always a need for a kid like Donovan Heinisch to come in. So no and no would be the answer to that.
I would be very disappointed if they did something like that, to be honest with you.
Here's a good one, Vince. Who's Notre Dame's top 5 fastest players on this year's team?
You would know that better than I would.
I would go Chris Tyree, their fastest player. I would go Braden Lindsey. I would go – this is a good one after the first two. Those two, Tariq Bracy's is one of the 5 fastest, and that I've had that confirmed. Maybe. I don't know. Okay. His track times are really good.
Okay.
He might be in that conversation. I would think Lorenzo Styles would be in that conversation. Lawrence Keys is in that conversation. And I think that would probably be the guys that I would have in that conversation as far as the fastest. It would be those six guys. So obviously Chris Tyree and Braden Lindsey are in there. After that, it's between Keys, Henderson, Bracy, and there was one other that I had said as well. Those would be the guys that would be in the conversation for the fastest on the team. All right, let's get down to here. I think we're going to wrap up there. Okay. We have a lot of non-Notre Dame questions. I would love for you all to be with us in the chat tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern. Tomorrow, we'll have our Friday free-for-all. What's up, Vince?
12:30.
12:30? Oh, because you can't be in the show the whole time tomorrow.
Because I got school tomorrow.
We're back to that whole thing where Vince is only there for the first 45 minutes, and then I got to do the rest.
I'll be there for an hour, baby. 60 minutes.
Okay, so 12:30 tomorrow. We'll do that, and we'll see how that's going to go during the rest of the school year. But for tomorrow, at least, we'll go 12:30. So that's going to be it for today's show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Had a great crowd in here today. Tons of great questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all. But please have those ready for us tomorrow. So if we didn't get to your question today, get it for us tomorrow. We'll dive right in, be ready to rock and roll. So for Vince, I'm Brian. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Sign up for the message boards. You can see the link below. We also have a link in the description bar. We have the Built Bar thing, 10% off all your entire Built Bar purchase. Check that out too. Lots going on. So make sure you check it all out. We'll talk to you all again very, very soon.